Chapter 198. Clang. Under the violent collision of the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yin almost couldn't hold on to the fire serpent spear. However, he was also considered to have outstanding talent and actually rolled out smoothly. The fire serpent spear transformed into a fire serpent that swallowed towards Lin Muyu's legs. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. He quickly turned and retreated a few steps, stabbing the long sword into the ground with one hand. With a loud shout, he summoned the wall of the bottle gourd. The black tortoise shell and dragon scale wall rose from the ground, directly dispersing Qin Yan's attack. Stepping forward, Lin Muyu quickly slashed out 3 times, causing Qin Yan to continuously retreat. The dragon scale armor on his body also rapidly dissipated. After fighting for over 30 rounds, the speed at which Qin Yan's battle chi increased was already far inferior to Lin Muyu's. Hence, he didn't delay any longer and straightforwardly stabbed the fire serpent spear into the ground. He cupped his fists and said, "Big brother Lin Muyu, I admit defeat. You haven't even used that mysterious power and can already defeat Ai Yan. Ha, thanks for letting me win, Ai Yan." Lin Muyu also cupped his fists and smiled. The mysterious power that Qin Yan spoke of was actually the 7 planets' profound energy. Many people knew that Lin Muyu possessed a mysterious martial art, but no one knew what it was called. Hence, it caused him to become increasingly mysterious. Advanced to the semi-finals. Carrying the dragon spirit sword, Qin Yan walked down the stage shoulder to shoulder with Qin Yan. Looking at his fire serpent spear, it was already filled with densely packed tiny cuts. He couldn't help but say with heartache, "What sword did big brother Lin Muyu use? It's so domineering it actually chipped my fire serpent spear. This fire serpent spear is a profound grade 2 treasure. Royal father specially found this weapon for me from the western regions. No problem, just find a blacksmith to repair it." Lin Muyu patted his shoulder and consoled. "All right." Qin Yan was still somewhat desolate. After all, he was a competitive young man. Especially in such a grand competition like the Sword Duel Assembly, it was truly a pity to lose. At this moment, Chu Huaimian stood up. His body swayed slightly and he frowned, looking slightly uncomfortable. "Old Chu, can you still fight?" Feng Jixing said worriedly, "Your injuries are a little heavy." "It's already bandaged." Chu Huaiying gritted his teeth and said, "It's all right. I've prepared for so long for the Sword Duel Conference. I must go up and defeat Murongzhou. I'll make him laugh at my Imperial Guard for having no one else." And all right then. Murongzhou, 34 years old this year, was the captaincy of the border garrison of Heaven's Pivot Province and the general of the north. He was well versed in spear techniques and was known as the spear god of Heaven's Pivot Province. It was said that he was invincible when it came to riding on horseback. He once defeated 7 northern desert generals in a row, forging a lifetime of glory for him. It seemed that because of these experiences, Murongzhou became arrogant. He even declared that he would challenge the Imperial Guards in the capital city one by one to see if there was anyone in the capital city who could be his match. Furthermore, Murongzhou was very talented. Before he was 40, he had already reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven. He had reached Heaven Realm's 2nd heaven half a year earlier than Chu Huayin. Chu Huayin stepped onto the martial arts arena step by step. His footsteps were slightly serious. He was indeed heavily injured, but he couldn't lose his dignity as the commander of the Dragon Guards. He held onto his long sword and stood majestically in the wind. He looked like an inviolable divine statue. Murongzhou held an iron spear in his hand. He raised his eyebrows and smiled. "Chu Huayin, you have proven that you are a very strong person by fighting Xian Fong. However, I, Murongzhou, am not willing to bully someone who is injured. I think you should just admit defeat. It's not embarrassing to lose to me, Murongzhou. Otherwise, after you're injured, your skills will be greatly reduced. Do you think you can defeat me?" Chu Huayin's smile was very bright. "The premise of an unfair victory is to be able to win. Do you think you can defeat me? I heard that you really want to challenge the 2 commanders, Qin Lei and Feng Jixing. It just so happens that I have a nickname in the Imperial Guard called Touchstone. If you want to challenge the 2 commanders, then you have to defeat me first. Otherwise, you don't have the right to challenge them." "Is that so? In that case, I'll accept your invitation." Just as he finished speaking, Murongzhou's iron spear suddenly stabbed towards him. Chu Huayin hurriedly raised his long sword to block it. However, Murongzhou's spear had a soft force. The tip of the spear tilted slightly, causing a flower of blood to bloom on Chu Huayin's shoulder. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The power of the collision caused Chu Huayin to retreat several steps. He quickly abandoned his long sword and turned his palms into fingers. Rays of starlight surrounded him. Just as Murong Zhou approached him with his iron spear, Chu Huayin raised his hand and pointed. His battle energy turned into starlight and shot towards Murong Zhou's forehead. Murong Zhou was stunned for a moment, and the chi armor between his eyebrows had already been shattered. He hurriedly flipped over and fell to the ground to avoid the second and third attacks. Chu Huaying's star-plucking finger left deep holes on the stone floor. It was evident that Chu Huaying's battle energy was very strong. You've gone too far. Murong Zhou rolled and crawled in a sorry state. Finally, he found an opportunity to jump up and sweep his spear towards Chu Huayin's calf. However, Murong Zhou didn't expect Chu Huayin to be so desperate. He forcefully condensed his battle energy and rooted his calf's center of gravity on the ground. With a bang, he was hit by the spearhead, causing blood to flow out. However, Chu Huayin used the opportunity to injure his calf and his fingers moved like butterflies. Countless starlight condensed from battle energy fell down and directly destroyed Murong Zhou's battle energy armor. In the blink of an eye, Murong Zhou was already covered in injuries. Fortunately, Chu Huayin only used 30% of his strength. Otherwise, this round of star-plucking finger would have been enough to kill Murong Zhou on the spot. Murong Zhou, who was covered in blood, slowly stood up. Just as he was about to attack with his iron spear, he saw Chu Huayin's palm facing him. Chu Huayin didn't move an inch. A bright moon appeared in the air. The moon-print palm could take his life at any moment. I admit defeat. Murong Zhou was dejected. If he didn't admit defeat, he would have to pay with his life. Chu Huayin was already determined to get into the top 4. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing hurried forward and helped the injured Chu Huayin off the stage. Chu Huayin felt a wave of nausea and dizziness. When he looked into the distance, he realized that Jinxiang's seat was already empty. He couldn't help but feel lonely. "Old Chu, you idiot. Do you want to die?" Feng Jixing said in a low voice. Chu Huayin smiled and said, "His Majesty promised that the top 4 of the sword duel tournament would receive the title of a second-class noble. Our Chu clan is a commoner. I must change the situation so that Yao won't be looked down upon by anyone in the future." "Idiot," Feng Jixing said indifferently. Lin Muyu supported Chu Huayin's shoulder and said, "Quickly apply the medicine. Otherwise your leg might be crippled." Murong Zhou didn't hold back at all. "Okay." Immediately she sat at the side of the stage and took off Chu Huayin's combat boots. His leg was already bruised and bloody. Lin Muyu hurriedly took out some medicine and personally applied it on Chu Huayin. At this point, the top 4 of the sword duel tournament had already been decided. They were Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei and Chu Huayin. They were also the 4 brothers who were the closest to each other. Soon, the eunuch announced the final lineup: Lin Muyu versus Qin Lei, Feng Jixing versus Chu Huayin. Finally, the 4 brothers were going to fight it out. Chu Huayin lay on the cold stone steps and looked at the sky. He smiled and said, "This year's sword duel tournament is really brilliant. It's probably the most tragic one in the history of the sword duel tournament." Qin Lei said, "It's also the most powerful one. The top 4 are all at level 2 of the Heaven Realm. Such a lineup. The Empire hasn't seen such a thing in hundreds of years. Otherwise, His Majesty wouldn't be so happy." Chu Huayin tilted his head and looked at Feng Jixing. He said, "Brother Feng, you got lucky this time. I'm all in the final battle and I really don't have the strength to fight anymore." Feng Jixing said happily, "Doesn't this mean that I, Feng, have directly advanced to the competition for first place?" "Yes." "Haha, I'll definitely treat you to a drink later. I'll drink the best wine in Lanyan City." "Thanks." Then the top 4 competition became the battle between Qin Lei and Lin Muyu. Qin Lei propped the thunder cutter blade on the ground and said with a smile, It's our turn. Should we go all out or hold back?" Lin Muyu smiled and said, "Don't go all out, we can talk about it." "All right then." Qin Lei was also a straightforward person. He patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and said with a smile, "As the big brother, I know what I'm doing. Don't worry, once the victor is decided, I'll stop." "And me too." The 2 of them went up the stage together. Qin Lei slowly swung his long blade and said with a smile, Why don't we decide the victor in one move? How about it? We'll use our strongest move. Whoever wins and who loses will be decided in an instant. This will save us from fighting for too long and exhausting too much battle chi, and giving Feng Jixing, this old fellow, an advantage. I don't want to see him take the Lulong talisman without even fighting a battle. This way the Imperial Guards will have too much of an advantage." "All right." Lin Muyu nodded and said with a smile, "Then let's decide the victor in one move." "All right." The people below the stage could not hear what the people on the stage were saying, but they could see that Lin Muyu and Qin Yan's expressions suddenly became solemn. Furthermore, the battle chi on the two's body rapidly rose, giving people a feeling of almost suffocation. Bah, bah. Qin Lei raised the lightning split saber horizontally. Bolts of lightning descended from the sky, encircling his surroundings. The lightning split saber even trembled slightly. At the same time, 6 golden god-binding chains encircled his body. Vigorous battle chi continuously spread in all directions, forming an extremely powerful storm that was currently attacking in all directions. Even furious lightning descended from the sky, causing the sky to dim. In an instant, it was as if day had turned into night. Only the flickering light of lightning continuously illuminated the people near the viewing platform. My God! Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful face lost all color as she said, "Is Big Brother Qin Lei going to risk his life? He wouldn't be thinking of killing you, right?" Qin Yin's pair of elegant eyes also revealed worry. "I believe that Big Brother Qin Lei will know what to do." Everyone on the viewing platform was already dumbstruck. The starting stance of Qin Lei's move was really too shocking. It was as if he wanted to borrow the might of the heavens to defeat Lin Muyu. On the contrary, Lin Muyu was extremely calm. The golden gourd in her hand slowly rotated, and in the blink of an eye, it became bigger, enveloping her entire body. The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and with a shout, a golden light soared into the sky, directly piercing through the dark clouds that Qin Lei had condensed. A ray of heavenly light landed on Lin Muyu's body. The long sword left her hand and the dragon spirit sword rapidly rotated, bringing with it streams of true dragon essence fire. Not only that, Lin Muyu even opened her left hand. Streams of blood-colored demonic energy danced wildly in her palm, quickly seeping into the blade. This strike carried the profound energy of the 2 glorious demonic dance. Lin Muyu didn't dare to use the 4th glorious dance because there was no need. If the 2nd glorious dance couldn't defeat Qin Lei, then it could only mean that she wasn't fated to obtain the Gilded Dragon Talisman. And compared to the Gilded Dragon Talisman, Qin Lei's life was obviously more important. Chapter 199. Compared to Qin Lei's lightning that wreaked havoc, Lin Muyu's aura was clearly much gentler. The golden gourd represented the power of life, giving people a sense of peace. However, the demonic power that spread on the blade allowed people to feel the hidden tyranny and forcefulness of Lin Muyu's attack. The two of them were risking their lives right from the start. This made people look forward to the final result even more. On the viewing platform, the noble ladies were sipping tea as they discussed spiritedly, "Wow, Sir Qin Lei is indeed worthy of being the commander of the Imperial Army. This kind of aura is too frightening. I'm afraid that Sir Lin Muyu is going to lose." "No, Sir Lin Muyu will not lose." "Why?" "Because Sir Lin Muyu looks much better than Sir Qin Lei." "Shameless." "Stupid girl, haven't you been staring at Sir Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying and Feng Jixing?" I haven't." "Then why did you see Sir Lin Muyu's appearance just now?" Her breathing was hurried, her face was flushed, and she kept pulling at her clothes at the front of her chest. I'm going to kill you to silence you, stupid girl." On the practice platform, the hard stone slabs were actually peeling off and rising due to the collision of power. It was as if they were going against the law of gravity. Bits of stone and dust were constantly flying up due to the collision of power between Lin Muyu and Qin Lei. However, it was in line with the physical phenomenon of the airflow rotating due to thermal expansion and contraction. Lightning constantly flickered, and the thunder split blade was burned red by the lightning. It had already reached its peak state. Qin Lei's eyes were burning with battle intent. He laughed loudly and said, "You try the 6th attack of Big Brother's thunder split blade technique." As he spoke, Qin Lei shouted, "Raging thunder rips the heavens." Buzz. The thunder cutter blade seemed to have already transformed into countless streaks of lightning. The one in front of them was definitely not a single thunder cutter blade. Qin Lei's overwhelming attack had actually blasted out tens of thousands of thunder cutter blades. A cold glint flashed across Lin Muyu's eyes. She abruptly clasped her palms together and gathered all the fighting energy in her body. The dragon serpent sword soul let out an angry roar and circled around the blade of the dragon soul sword. The dragon serpent sword soul charged towards the thunder splitter sword with a high-speed spiral of flames. Boom. The two divine weapons collided together, and the sounds of energy explosions rang out incessantly. The dragon spirit sword spun and charged forward, directly shattering the energy of the first lightning split blade. Following that, the second, the third and so on, it kept on charging forward. Meanwhile, Lin Muyu spread out his arms from afar, with flames lingering around his palms. He controlled the dragon spirit sword to charge forward from a distance. The strong wind blew his cloak, causing it to flutter. He narrowed his eyes, not giving in the slightest to Qin Lei's attack. Awesome! Qin Lei roared as he continued to urge his fighting energy. The sky-rending raging lightning crazily surged. Lin Muyu could not retreat, or else his body would be torn into pieces in an instant. He did not believe that Qin Lei, this battle maniac, had the ability to hold back at the crucial moment. Therefore he could only win this battle and not lose. The 7 luminaries' profound energy was circulating crazily. When the dragon spirit sword smashed close to 100 thunder splitter sword's sharp beams, its power actually showed some signs of being exhausted. However, Qin Lei's sky-rending raging lightning was still wreaking havoc. The arrow was already on the bowstring and had no choice but to be released. Again. With a light spread of his palms, the 3rd luminary's profound energy crazily surged out of his body. One after another, the celestial bodies of living beings condensed on the martial arts practice stage. Under Lin Muyu's summon, they all attached themselves to the dragon spirit sword from afar. Immediately, the golden light exploded. The dragon spirit sword received the addition of new energy as it rapidly charged towards Qin Lei, directly shattering the energy of dozens of thunder splitter sword. Lin Muyu exerted all of his strength to control the dragon spirit sword through the air. His complexion became rather pale as he secretly prayed, "Big brother Qin Lei, hurry up and lose. Don't force me to use the 4th luminaries. The 4th luminaries are too strong. If I use it, even I would be afraid." Finally, Qin Lei, who was on the martial arts practice stage, suddenly spat out a mouthful of fresh blood with a pfft sound. He could not hold on any longer. The 6 god-binding chains on the surface of his body began to scatter one after another, and the radiance of the thunder splitter sword also gradually dimmed. Buzz buzz. The dragon spirit sword charged straight towards Qin Lei's chest without stopping. Just as it was about to pierce through, Lin Muyu suddenly retracted his hand. Immediately, as if it had a mind of its own, the long sword made a somersault in the air and stabbed onto the stone slab in front of Lin Muyu. J? Qin Lei gasped for breath. While wiping the fresh blood from the corner of his mouth, he raised his head to look at Lin Muyu and said with a smile, "Satisfying, satisfying. Where did this strange strength come from? The 6th strike of my thunder splitter sword technique is extremely tyrannical. I'm confident that even Feng Jixing might not be able to dissolve it unscathed. You brat actually forcefully broke through this move of mine. You're really not simple." Lin Muyu's complexion was also pale as she slowly held onto the sword hilt. Her body swayed as she said with a smile, "I've already used all of my strength. If I couldn't receive this move, I'm afraid that I would have been hacked to death by big brother Qin Lei." Qin Lei laughed loudly, "I've lost. You go fight for first place with Feng Jixing. Many thanks to big brother Qin Lei for letting me win. Pa, I didn't go easy on you. Do you think that I don't want the dragon talisman?" Qin Lei wiped the corner of his mouth again and said with a smile, "Humph, my imperial army only has 7,000 people. If I had the dragon talisman, I would mobilize troops from Tsangnan province and expand the imperial army to 17,000 people." Lin Muyu walked forward and held onto Qin Lei's arm. She said with a smile, 7,000 people is already enough. Any more would just be eating rations for free." "That's true." At this time, a eunuch walked onto the uneven martial arts practice stage and said loudly, "Lin Muyu wins. Lord Qin Lei and Lord Chu Huaying are tied for 3rd and 4th place in this sword duel assembly. Next, Lord Feng Jixing and Lord Lin Muyu will fight for 1st place in this sword duel assembly." Thunderous applause sounded. Everyone was finally going to see a pinnacle showdown. Feng Jixing, the man who was known as the Tiger of Tongtian Street, and Lin Muyu, the peerless genius of the divine temple that was rarely seen in 100 years. One was the commander of the imperial army and had guarded the imperial capital for almost 7 years. The other had saved Her Highness Qin Yin's life twice with wisdom and bravery. Moreover, he had cultivated a 10th grade green gourd martial spirit to such a level that it could actually surpass the 1st grade god-binding shackles. How powerful was this? The showdown between these two people was most likely what everyone expected. At this time, Qin Yin suddenly stood up and said respectfully, "Imperial Father, big brother Yu has been fighting hard and has consumed a lot of his battle chi and stamina. On the other hand, General Feng has been resting for so long. If we were to fight now, it would be a little unfair to big brother Yu. I suggest that we give big brother Yu some time to rest." After 2 hours we will let General Feng and Big Brother you have a showdown. Qin Jin happily nodded his head and smiled. Xiaoyin is right. I approve it. The showdown between the two of them will be held 2 hours later. Thank you, Imperial Father. From afar Lin Muyu also cast a grateful look at Qin Yin. As for Qin Jin, when he saw that Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Chu Huaying and Qin Lei were in the top 4, he heaved a sigh of relief. No matter which family the dragon talisman ended up in, these 4 people were all on his side. Lin Changqing and Murong Zhou might not be loyal to him. Lin Muyu calmly sat on the stone steps and continuously circulated the forging dragon bone remnant scroll to calm the surging battle qi in her body. She had consumed a lot of energy in the head-on fight with Qin Lei. If she were to fight now, she might not be a match for Feng Jixing at his peak. After all, Feng Jixing's self-created wind blade technique was extremely domineering. Even at her peak, she might not be able to deal with it, let alone in a situation where she had consumed a lot of battle qi. Feng Jixing hugged his wind cutter blade and sat beside Lin Muyu with a smile. He said, if you admit defeat, Big Brother Feng will treat you to a month's worth of beef and flour buns. How about it? Deal. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. Don't give me that. I won't fall for it. Feng Jixing smiled and said, what do you think of Her Highness Yin's appearance? Is she number 1 in the world? Lin Muyu's heart wavered slightly, but she knew that it was Feng Jixing's trick. She calmed her heart and said, Her Highness' appearance is still okay, I'm still not falling for it. Feng Jixing grinned and said, if you were to choose, who would you marry? Her Highness Qin Yin, Princess Shi and the beauty Chu Yao, who would you choose? Lin Muyu glanced at him and said, Don't give me that, I won't choose any of them. Really? That's a pity? Feng Jixing whistled and lay down on the stone steps beside Lin Muyu. He didn't look like a commander of the Imperial Army at all. Instead he looked more like a hoodlum. He lowered his voice and laughed, I think you should marry both Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. One will be the elder and the other will be the younger. What do you think? Lin Muyu finally laughed and stopped circulating her energy. She said, Big Brother Feng, you're so scheming. Is the first place of this sword duel tournament really that important to you? Of course it's important. Feng Jixing revealed his true colors. The first place will receive a reward of 100,000 Jinin coins. The second place will only receive 30,000 Jinin coins. It's not even enough to buy a big house in the capital. Chu Huayin, who was cultivating to heal his injuries, opened his eyes and asked, What do you want a big house for? How can I marry without a big house? Feng Jixing's eyes widened. You don't have a wife. Chu Huayin laughed. Feng Jixing pulled out his wind cutter and raised his eyebrows. Chu Huayin, don't say anything else. Fight me one-on-one if you're a man. Chu Huayin grinned and continued to cultivate to heal his injuries. He said, You don't fall for his trick. 3 years ago, in order to get first place in the sword competition, this guy actually invited me to drink wine the day before. He said he wanted to drink rice wine, but in the end, it was all strong alcohol. He even found a few girls from Spring Fragrance Brothel to drink with him. I was defeated by him after I was drunk. How disgraceful. Lin Muyu held back her laughter. Since that's the case, I definitely can't lose to Brother Feng. I also want a big house and a wife. Feng Jixing held back his laughter. It's really unfortunate to know you guys. Chu Huayin pouted. If those girls in the capital knew that you, Feng Jixing, are like this, I'd like to see if they would still be interested in you. Lin Muyu secretly laughed but didn't say anything. 2 hours passed quickly. It was time for the competition. Lin Muyu silently circulated her battle energy and found that it had recovered to 90%. She could almost fight with Feng Jixing now. Chapter 200. Prepare to start the duel. Qin Jin stood up, brushed the sleeves of his dragon robe and said in a dignified manner, Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, I hope that the two of you will adhere to the principle of fair competition and decide the victor. Both of you are the Empire's outstanding talents, stop when necessary and don't hurt each other, understand? Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu stood on the martial arts practice stage, and gave a military salute to the Emperor at the same time, saying in a deep voice, This general understands. Actually, they understood in their hearts that all of them were martial cultivators, and every single one of them had a heart that was unwilling to admit defeat. Since they were standing on the final martial arts practice stage, then they would surely go all out to determine the victor. Feng Jixing needed this victory in the sword duel tournament to prove his strength as the commander of the Imperial Army. Lin Muyu also needed a big victory like this to prove her worth in this world, so no one would go easy on her, but they definitely wouldn't fight with their lives on the line like Qin Lei. Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing were both intelligent people, and they respected each other like brothers, so naturally they wouldn't have any killing intent during the duel. Clang! The dragon spirit sword was unsheathed, and the sword's cry was incessant. The dragon serpent sword spirit, which was close to a true dragon, coiled around the long sword, and this was the symbol of a sacred beast's soul lattice. Holding the long sword horizontally, Lin Muyu didn't move, and had the demeanor of a great swordsman. Feng Jixing unhurriedly pulled out the wind cutter and said with a smile, in terms of weapons you have the upper hand. This dragon spirit sword is a sacred rank, but my wind cutter is only a profound rank, it's too disadvantageous. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Big brother Feng, just swallow this grievance. If worst comes to worst, I'll think of a way to help you reforge your wind cutter saber after the sword duel tournament. I'll raise your wind cutter saber's soul to the saint rank. However, you can't tell anyone about this or else I'll be in big trouble. Feng Jixing lowered his voice and laughed. You brat, you are indeed well versed in the art of forging weapons. I knew it. Alright, it's a deal. As long as you can reforge the wind cutter saber into a saint rank weapon, it doesn't matter even if big brother Feng loses this sword duel. Come Ayu, let's do our best and not leave any regrets. Yes. Feng Jixing shouted. The purple electric flame wolf roared incessantly. Bolts of lightning gathered on the saber. In the next moment, it raised the saber and rushed over. An extraordinary saber swept out, Desert Gale. Lin Muyu was already familiar with this move. She stomped on the ground with her combat boots, and the pale golden wall of the gourd appeared. It was very beautiful, and the dragon spirit sword shook slightly, bringing along the purple lightning to meet the attack. Ding! Sparks flew, and no one gained any advantage in this exchange. Both of them swayed on the spot. Feng Jixing was secretly stunned. He did not expect Lin Muyu's advancement to be so rapid. When they first met in the dragon-seeking forest, Feng Jixing was able to completely crush him in terms of strength. This kid was indeed a rare talent that only appeared once in 100 years. Thinking of this, Feng Jixing was inexplicably excited. To have such a rare genius as an opponent, wasn't this a kind of fortune for cultivators? Flame! Feng Jixing suddenly lowered his head, and the purple electric flame wolf on his shoulder quickly opened its mouth. Voila! A scarlet flame shot out. It was a martial soul skill. Naturally, Lin Muyu didn't dare to be negligent. She quickly strengthened the dragon scale wall, and the golden wall of the gourd blocked this attack. Amidst the surging flames, her aura was slightly chaotic. Feng Jixing's cultivation was extraordinary, and the power of his martial soul skill was naturally imaginable. Just when the gourd wall blocked this attack, Feng Jixing suddenly rushed over in the flames. Scarlet hot sand lingered around his saber, and a fierce horizontal slash landed on the wall of the gourd. Hot sand gold. Dang! The gourd wall quickly collapsed by half. This attack of Feng Jixing was really powerful, but Lin Muyu was not inferior. His body spun and he quickly used the falling star step to catch up with Feng Jixing. The dragon spirit sword whistled, and 3 consecutive slashes slashed at Feng Jixing's back. Good boy, Feng Jixing's heart shook. He didn't think that Lin Muyu's movement skill would be so good. He was already fast enough, but he couldn't catch up to Lin Muyu's speed at all. Falling star step, as the name suggested, was fast. Naturally, it wasn't something that Feng Jixing could compare with. Slashing the wind cutter horizontally, dang 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 blocked 3 consecutive slashes from Lin Muyu, but at this moment, Lin Muyu's hand pressed on the hilt of the sword. A bunch of gourd vines quickly rose from the blade, and quickly wrapped around the wind cutter saber. Taking advantage of the momentum, the vines lifted the wind cutter saber up. What? Feng Jixing was stunned. Just when the saber was about to fly out of his hand, he saw Lin Muyu suddenly raise his right leg, and a stream of true dragon elemental fire lingered around his leg and he brazenly kicked. Feng Jixing was not a person who was afraid of trouble. He immediately jumped up with the saber, and his knee hit Lin Muyu's combat boots. Pung! The cyclone flowed back. Feng Jixing took advantage of the situation, and cleverly grabbed the wind cutter saber and twisted it with all his strength. Suddenly, the gourd vines scattered, and in this way Lin Muyu's determined attack was actually perfectly resolved. Lin Muyu secretly admired Feng Jixing's ability to adapt in a battle. At this moment, Feng Jixing clenched the saber, and his body was covered with wind blades. He directly swung the violent saber storm, the third style of the wind-walking saber technique. Rustle, rustle, rustle. The sky was filled with wind blades, and Lin Muyu hurriedly retreated a few steps. She summoned the wall of the gourd again and adopted a defensive strategy. At the same time, she closed her eyes and released her spirit meridian technique. She locked onto Feng Jixing's position, and raised her hand to launch a demonic sound fist. Bam! The demonic sound fist smashed into Feng Jixing's battle armor, but the violent saber storm continued to wreak havoc, violently crashing into the wall of the gourd. Lin Muyu's battle chi was constantly being consumed, and she was beginning to feel that her battle chi was about to run out. What was even worse was that Feng Jixing's figure appeared in the midst of the raging winds. Purple lightning lingered around his wind-cutter saber, and the sky darkened. It was as if all the light in the sky had been absorbed by the purple electric flame wolf. Feng Jixing leaped high into the air and suddenly slashed down with his violent thunder saber. I have to block it. Lin Muyu abruptly injected a powerful burst of 7 luminaries' profound energy into her arms. She gripped her sword with both hands and leaped into the air. One celestial body after another appeared around her, and her sword contained the power of the first luminaries as it met the violent thunder saber head-on. Bam! Almost no one could be seen on the drill ground anymore. Everyone could only see the whistling sound of battle chi colliding with each other. The collision directly formed a violent shockwave that swept across the entire observation platform, and many people had already covered their eyes. Buzz buzz! Qi Nin stood in front of her father, and golden god binding chains slowly appeared around her to block the storm and the rubble. Tang Xiaoxi also summoned her fire fox to block the storm with the power of fire. Chu Chu narrowed his eyes and he remained calm and collected. The light of a fire cauldron appeared around him, and the storm and rubble naturally couldn't harm him in the slightest. Tang Xiaoxi stuck out her tongue and said with a smile, Commander Feng Jixing and Mumu, these two fellows are simply like two monsters. They're a little too ridiculously strong, right? Chu Chu smiled. Just as Princess, she said, Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both rare geniuses that only appear once in 1,000 years. As long as they have enough time, their strength will be unfathomable. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and asked, Chu, what do you think of these two people? Meh. Chu Chu stroked his white beard and smiled. If this old man may be so bold to say, the future of the empire will probably be closely related to these two people. Your Majesty, if we use these two people well, they can bring peace to our great Qin. If we don't use them well, I'm afraid that these two people will become ambitious and ruthless people in this chaotic world. Qin Jin was startled. Commander Feng Jixing can be said to be loyal and devoted to me. He won't become an ambitious and ruthless person in this chaotic world, right? Chu Chu laughed. Your Majesty, you're worrying too much. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu are both like unpolished jade. Feng Jixing is loyal and courageous, while Lin Muyu is even more sincere. As long as your Majesty doesn't betray these two people, they will definitely not betray your Majesty. If we use these two people well, Great Qin will be able to last for another 1,000 years. Qin Jin felt relieved. He cupped his fists and said, Thank you for your teachings, Chu. Chu Chu also cupped his fists and said, Your Majesty, you're too kind. There's no need to be so polite. Otherwise, this old man will tremble in fear and not dare to speak again. Qin Jin smiled faintly. Elder Chu, you're being too polite. How about this, if Elder Chu doesn't mind, you can stay in Zetian Palace for a long time. I'll make you the princess's grand tutor, and you'll be in charge of teaching little Yin's cultivation, virtue, and ability. Chu Chu was stunned. Your Majesty, this, Qin Yin hurriedly said with a smile. Chu, you've taught Xiaoxi and you before. Why can't you teach Xiaoyin as well? All right then, Chu Chu said respectfully, then this old man will do as you say. Thank you, Chu. Qin Yin was overjoyed. Her beautiful face was filled with excitement. In reality, no one knew what she was thinking. Once she acknowledged Chu Chu as her master, it would mean that she and Lin Muyu were not only sworn siblings, they would also be fellow disciples. It seemed like their relationship had deepened to another level. At this time, the battle on the training platform had reached its climax. Feng Jixing activated his power, and the purple electric flame wolf's head constellation appeared on his saber. Raging flames surged as he unleashed a secret technique called Howling Wolf Saber Fire. Lin Muyu had also raised her power to the second element, and she unleashed a combination of Thunderclap Frenzy plus 2 Luminaries Demonic Dance. Clang. The Windcutter Saber trembled violently, and the Dragon Spirit Sword also trembled slightly. The two's power just so happened to reach an equilibrium, but right at this moment, a smile suddenly appeared on Feng Jixing's face. You've lost. Ah? Lin Muyu was stunned, but she was caught off guard by the sudden appearance of a hand on Feng Jixing's shoulder. No, it wasn't a hand but the purple electric flame wolf's sharp claws. It was a giant claw filled with lightning and flames, and it was the purple electric flame wolf's martial soul's skill, fiery palm pounce. Bang! The fiery palm pounce landed heavily on Lin Muyu's shoulder, shattering her Do-Chi armor. At the same time, the force of the blow sent her flying. The two had already collided in midair, and now Lin Muyu was sent flying by the force of the blow. She was already flying out of the edge of the training platform, and according to the rules, landing outside of the training platform would be considered a loss. What a good Feng Jixing to have such a move up his sleeves. This competition was indeed full of schemes. Chapter 201. But just as Feng Jixing was rejoicing, Lin Muyu, who was in the air, suddenly opened her hand, and her martial soul extended out several gourd vines that quickly wrapped around one of the pillars of the martial arts stage. With a "so" sound she pulled it back, and her whole body once again rushed up the martial arts stage. Pa! Lin Muyu stood firmly on her feet and smiled. Big brother Feng, don't be too happy just yet. Good lad, again. Feng Jixing laughed and suddenly raised his saber. A terrifying celestial demon constellation appeared behind him. It was the seventh form of the wind saber art, sky-devouring demonic saber. It was this move that defeated the successor of the Seven Seas Tang sect, Tang Bin. Now Feng Jixing was using the same move. Lin Muyu let out a shout, and the power of the third element surged into her arms. The dragon spirit sword spun rapidly, and she used her peak combat technique to meet Feng Jixing's fierce move, 3 Luminaries Calamity plus True Dragon Essence Fire plus Helix Break. 1. Lin Muyu controlled the flaming long sword and rushed toward Feng Jixing's sky-devouring demonic saber. But this time she only dared to use about 40% of the third element's power because she was afraid of injuring Feng Jixing. Of course, Lin Muyu didn't know that Feng Jixing didn't use his full strength either. He only used 50% of the sky-devouring demonic saber's power. Hong! The demonic saber covered in flames descended from the sky and clashed directly with Lin Muyu's longsword. The moment they clashed they were actually equally matched. The two weapons were glued together, their battle chis restricting each other. It was a stalemate. At this moment Lin Muyu opened her palm and said, "Big brother Feng, look here." Feng Jixing looked over. Whoosh! A dazzling ray of dawn bloomed in Lin Muyu's palm. It was the light of a small golden gourd. It was the green gourd's 7th level ability, Light of Dawn. My eyes. You brat. Feng Jixing hastily covered his eyes. This battle was full of schemes, and this time it was Lin Muyu who schemed against Feng Jixing. However, just when Lin Muyu was secretly pleased with herself, Feng Jixing suddenly kicked his legs in the air, and 3 consecutive powerful kicks landed on the wall of the gourd. Everyone knew that Feng Jixing's saber technique was invincible, but no one knew that Feng Jixing's leg technique was also so fierce. Immediately, the power of the third brilliance and the heaven-devouring demonic blade exploded in the air. With the addition of the power from Feng Jixing's kick, the two of them quickly separated and landed on both sides of the training platform. While in the air, Lin Muyu wanted to summon the gourd vine, but she couldn't. The wall of the gourd was destroyed by Feng Jixing's unreasonable kick, and she couldn't summon any strength from her martial soul. Pa! Her battle boots landed on the ground and she slid more than 10 meters away before she came to a stop. Lin Muyu raised her hand and grabbed the dragon spirit sword that was chasing after her. With a shocked expression she said, "I lost just like that?" On the other side of the training platform, Feng Jixing also flipped in the air and landed on the ground. He stood firmly, rubbed his eyes and looked up at the training platform. He said, "Tui, this brat you is too crafty." My eyes. The scene was very quiet and everyone who was watching the battle was also stunned. This was because Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing both landed on the ground at almost the same time, and no one could determine who won the finals of the sword duel tournament. The eunuch who announced the results stood there dumbfounded. In the end he turned around and asked for help. "Your Majesty, the two of them landed on the ground at almost the same time. There's no way to determine the outcome. What should we do?" Chu Chu laughed heartily. "Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, come onto the stage and listen to His Majesty's announcement of the results." Qin Jin had a gratified expression on his face. He stood up and stroked his beard. He laughed heartily at Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu who were standing on the stage. This competition has really broadened my horizons. The strength of Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu has already been witnessed by everyone. With this result, The two of them are the champions of the sword duel tournament. As for the rewards, the dragon talisman and 200,000 Jin coins, the two of you can choose yourselves. Feng Jixing was stunned. He wanted the dragon talisman, but he also wanted the Jin coins. For a moment he was stuck in a dilemma. In the end, Lin Muyu was more straightforward. He didn't lack money, but he lacked an army. Thus, he cupped his fists and said, "Your Majesty, I choose the dragon talisman. I'll give the 200,000 Jin coins to Big Brother Feng." Feng Jixing nodded in tacit agreement. Qin Jin laughed heartily and said, "All right, I hereby announce that the champions of this sword duel tournament are Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing. The third and fourth places are Chu Huaying and Qin Lei. The rest of the contestants will also be rewarded accordingly. The final winner of the dragon talisman is Lin Muyu. Come forward to receive your reward." Lin Muyu and Feng Jixing walked forward together. Qin Jin personally handed out the reward. A dragon-shaped golden dragon talisman was placed in an extremely exquisite box. Qin Jin lifted it up and carefully placed it in Lin Muyu's hands. He reminded her, You must use the dragon talisman carefully. Once you mobilize the army, it means that you are controlling it as the Empire's general. You must not kill indiscriminately or defy the Empire's laws. Do you understand?" Lin Muyu accepted the dragon talisman and nodded heavily. "Yes, Your Majesty." Qin Jin then took out a 200,000 gold note and handed it to Feng Jixing. He said, "General Feng, as the commander of the Imperial Guards, you are responsible for the long-term stability of the Imperial capital. I hope that you will continue to give your all for the Empire in the future." Feng Jixing nodded with a determined look in his eyes. "Your Majesty, this general understands." At this moment, Qin Yin pulled Tang Xiaoxi forward and stopped in front of Lin Muyu. She grinned and said, "Congratulations, Big Brother Yu. You actually managed to obtain the dragon talisman." Tang Xiaoxi giggled. "I told you, Mu is as strong as a monster now. Obtaining the dragon talisman is as easy as pie." Lin Muyu blushed. "It's not as easy as you make it out to be. I was almost killed by Big Brother Feng's sword." Feng Jixing rubbed his nose and said angrily, "Don't say that. I was almost pierced through the chest by your sword." At this moment, Qin Lei and Qin Yan walked over while supporting Chu Huayin. The others also approached them one by one, waiting for the emperor to reward them. Qin Yin smiled and said, "Father, didn't you want to give the top 4 a title?" It seemed like Qin Yin had always wanted to give Lin Muyu a title. Now the opportunity had finally come. Qin Jin nodded lightly. He held the Desolation Sword, which symbolized his status as an emperor, and slowly stepped onto the pothole-filled martial arts arena. He exuded the majesty of an emperor as he said in a clear voice, "The Qin Empire is full of talented people. Today, during the sword competition, I can see that the Empire is full of talented people. With so many young heroes, our Qin Empire will definitely be strong for generations to come." As he spoke, he paused and said loudly, "I hereby appoint Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei, and Chu Huayin as the 4 generals of the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. They will also be known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. The title of the 4 heroes of Lanyan will accompany them for life. They will be second-class nobles in the Empire. I hope that the 4 of you will charge and break through enemy lines for the Qin Empire in the future and protect our territory." Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the others all cupped their fists in greeting. Second-class nobles. This was not a small title. In terms of nobility, Tang Xiaoxi, Qin Lei, Qin Yan, and the others were all first-class nobles. Second-class nobles were at least second-class nobles. Although it was only a title, from now on, no one would dare to think that Lin Muyu and Chu Huayin were commoners. Chu Huayin's face revealed a trace of gratification. The Chu family had been commoners for thousands of years. In his generation there was finally a change. Wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. 4 heroes of Lanyan. Qin Yin softly repeated the name twice. She smiled and said, "It's really appropriate. Congratulations, Brother Yu. From now on, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan. You can finally be on the same level as General Feng and Brother Qin Lei." Lin Muyu smiled in gratification. "Yes, I have to thank your majesty for this." As he spoke, he put away the dragon talisman and threw the precious token into his cosmos sack. Qin Jin continued to reward the contestants ranked 5th to 12th. Although these people did not have eye-catching titles like the 4 heroes of Lanyan, the rewards they received were still considerable. Those who held positions in the army had all been promoted by 1 rank. Otherwise, they would have received at least 10,000 Jinin coins as a reward. That was not a small number. Congratulations, little Lin, you have finally become a noble. Chu Chu smiled and congratulated him. Lin Muyu pursed her lips. Chu, don't make fun of me. My small status as one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan is just a small trick in front of you. Oh right, Chu, are you really willing to be the princess tutor? I can't disobey your majesty's words. Chu Chu said helplessly. Originally, I, Chu Chu, had never accepted a disciple in my entire life. Ever since you came, I have been making an exception. Fine, it doesn't matter if I accept a well-behaved disciple like Her Highness Yin. Yes, Chu, you have worked hard. Beside him, Feng Jixing put his arm around Lin Muyu's shoulder and laughed. Shall we find a place to gather tonight? Sure, where? Listen to the Rain Tower, your treat. How about it? You have the dragon talisman, so you will be the biggest winner of this sword contest. Sure. Sure. Following that was another series of reward ceremonies. The rules of the royal family were very complicated, but Lin Muyu tried to accept it. Here he was the closest to the sky and also the closest to the peak of this world. He had to be patient, otherwise he would not be able to show off his skills in the future. The contest finally ended when the sun set. The supervisor of the Zetian Palace held a banquet in the main hall, but Qin Jin did not attend because he was too tired. Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest of the 4 heroes of Lanyan did not attend either. They slipped out of the Zetian Palace under the cover of the night and went straight to listen to the Rain Tower. Both Her Highness Yin and Princess She did not come today, so we can drink to our heart's content. Qin Lei laughed. Chu Huayin nodded. The Zetian Palace has Chu's protection, so I believe there will not be any danger. It is rare for us to have this opportunity, so we must drink until we are drunk tonight. How about it? Sure. That night they really drank until they were drunk and they did not go home at all. For people wearing the armors of the Empire's senior generals left to listen to the Rain Tower after they were drunk. It was early in the morning and the cold wind was blowing, but they did not seem to feel cold at all. They recited poems facing the moonlight. Qin Lei was a boorish man, so he did not know how to recite poems, but Chu Huayin and Feng Jixing were quite knowledgeable, so they recited some poems that were similar to Where Will We Wake Up Tonight? The willows are by the shore, the wind is at dawn, and the moon is waning. After that, the 4 of them were drunk by the hidden dragon lake of Lanyan City. In the early morning, a few ruffians walked over and all of them were dumbfounded. Gosh, these people seem to be the experts of today's sword contest. They are known as the 4 heroes of Lanyan. TSK, they are already drunk. Should we touch them? Touch, touch, touch. Therefore, when Lin Muyu, Feng Jixing, and the rest woke up, all the Jingyan coins on them had been stolen. Fortunately, these ruffians did not dare to be too bold, and only took some Jingyan coins and silver coins. They did not even dare to touch Feng Jixing's gold notes. Otherwise, if the commander of the Imperial Guards was angry, it would be disastrous. Slapping his forehead, Feng Jixing woke up and said in annoyance, "Which bastard dared to steal the money pouch of the tiger of Tongtian Street?" Lin Muyu said, "My few hundred Jingyan coins were also stolen." Chu Huayin laughed. "Money is gone and people are happy. I'm so tired I'm going back to sleep." "Go back, everyone. We will meet again next time." Okay. Chapter 202. Back at the Eagle Nest camp, Lin Muyu continued to sleep until noon. Suddenly she rode up the mountain and said respectfully, "Commander Lin, Princess She is seeing off her cousin Tang Bin at the north gate of Lanyan City. She asked if you would like to have a meal at the bun shop outside the city." "Got it. I'll be right there." "Yes." She got up. The feeling of being drunk was really uncomfortable. When she washed up, she used the spiritual pulse technique to drive away some of the tiredness. Then she put on her armor and rode down the mountain. Outside the north gate of Lanyan City, Tang Xiaoxi stood there holding her pony. Beside her was Tang Bin and dozens of guards who seemed to be waiting for Lin Muyu. Amidst the sound of hooves, Tang Xiaoxi looked at Lin Muyu coming down from the Eagle Nest Mountain and couldn't help but smile. "Mu is here." Tang Bin frowned and didn't say anything. When Lin Muyu approached, she cupped her fists and smiled. "Xiaoxi, young master Tang Bin." Tang Bin also cupped his fists and smiled. "I didn't have time to congratulate Commander Lin yesterday. It shouldn't be too late to congratulate you today. Congratulations to Commander Lin for getting the dragon talisman." Lin Muyu was startled and smiled. "Thank you, young master Tang Bin. Mu, I'm going to send my cousin 10 miles out of the city. Will you accompany me? There's a famous bun shop 10 miles north of Lanyan City. We'll have lunch there," Tang Xiaoxi said with a smile. "Okay." Everyone got on their horses. Tang Bin seemed a little unhappy. Perhaps he was already unhappy when he saw Tang Xiaoxi being so intimate with Lin Muyu. 10 miles out of the city, there was indeed a bun shop in the distance. Almost all the traveling merchants would stop here to eat a steaming basket of beef buns in the cold winter. Tang Xiaoxi acted as the host and pulled Lin Muyu over. Then Tang Bin sat opposite them looking very serious. "Brother, why are you so serious? Who bullied you?" Tang Xiaoxi asked with a smile. Tang Bin couldn't help smiling. "No one can bully your brother. I'm just relieved to see that you are so happy in Lanyan City, Xiaoxi." "Is that so? No matter how I look at it, it doesn't look like he's at ease." "Ah, Xiaoxi, you think too much." Tang Bin looked up at Lin Muyu's handsome appearance and couldn't help but frown. He asked, "Xiaoxi, when did you meet Commander Lin?" "Oh, it was back in Kathia City." "What's wrong, brother?" "It's nothing. The buns are here. Eat them while they're hot." "More. Look at you, you've lost weight." "Hee hee, don't girls look better when they're thinner?" "You still have to be healthy. Come on, eat more." Emin. Lin Muyu could sense Tang Bin's hostility towards her, so she didn't say anything else. She just kept eating. After eating 2 baskets of buns, she felt inexplicably satisfied. Cultivators usually ate a lot. There was a law of balance between the heavens and the earth. The strength of cultivators came from their ability to absorb the spiritual energy of the world and convert their physical strength into fighting qi, true qi, and so on. Thus, the stronger Lin Muyu was, the more food she would need. It wasn't like the legend said that experts didn't need to eat at all. On the contrary, the stronger one was, the better their appetite would be. "Commander Lin." Tang Bin looked at Lin Muyu again. He seemed to want to say something but stopped himself. "What is it, young Master Tang Bin?" Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "If you have something to say, just say it." Tang Bin nodded. "There are a total of 3 Tang sect medallions in this world. One is with grandfather, one is with me, and one is with Xiaoxi. However, Xiaoxi's medallion seems to have already been given to you. But Xiaoxi is not very sensible and doesn't know how precious the Tang sect medallion is. Thus I, Tang Bin, can only overstep my authority. I hope that Commander Lin can return that Tang sect medallion." "Oh." Lin Muyu took out the heavy Tang sect medallion from her universe pouch. "What does young Master Tang Bin plan to do with this Tang sect medallion?" "Bring it back to 7 Seas City. It belongs to 7 Seas City." "But this was given to me by Xiaoxi. If I give it to you, won't I be betraying Xiaoxi?" Lin Muyu's gaze was filled with provocation. Since Duke Lan gave this Tang sect medallion to Xiaoxi, it means that all the authority of this medallion is given to Xiaoxi. Thus, if I return it, I can only return it to Xiaoxi, not you. Tang Bin raised his eyebrows. "Lin Muyu, I hope you understand the value of this Tang sect medallion. Anyone who holds this Tang sect medallion can deploy any army in 7 Seas province with no more than 50,000 soldiers. The authority bestowed by this medallion is even greater than that of the dragon talisman. Do you think I will leave this medallion in the hands of an outsider?" Lin Muyu smiled. "Then I will return the medallion to Xiaoxi." "What if I say no?" Tang Bin's gaze was cold. As the princess of 7 Seas, Xiaoxi is insensible enough to give the Tang sect medallion to an unrelated person. She is no longer fit to hold this Tang sect medallion. I have to take it back to 7 Seas province and hand it over to my grandfather. This is our 7 Seas Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu, let me give you a piece of advice. Don't meddle in the Tang sect's business. Lin Muyu was someone who could be persuaded by reason but not cowed by force. She said proudly, "Xiaoxi is my friend. If someone wants to steal something from my friend, I won't allow it. Xiaoxi, are you willing to hand over the Tang sect medallion to him?" "Muai." Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips. She looked at Tang Bin and said, "Brother, I will personally go back and hand this Tang sect medallion to my grandfather. I won't trouble you to come and get it." Tang Bin raised his brows and said, "Little Shi, you're still young and there are many things you don't understand. As your older brother, I naturally have to teach you how to interact with others. Some people aren't worthy of being your friend." Lin Muyu suddenly slammed the table and shouted in a low voice, "Tang Bin, say it again if you have the guts." Tang Bin suddenly smiled. He spread his arms and said, "Lin Muyu, do you want to fight with me? Generally call our people over. Tell them that Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen and the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning, is going to fight with me." At the side, General Li quickly blew a whistle. Immediately, the forest in the distance shook, and in the next moment, the sound of iron hooves thundered. At least 1,000 cavalrymen appeared on the official road, each of them wearing a red fox emblem on their shoulders. That was the symbol of the Seven Seas Tang sect. So they brought the army? Lin Muyu spread out her hands and said with a smile, no wonder they are so arrogant. If I had known it would be like this, I would have brought the Imperial Guard over. I wanted to see if the Seven Seas Tang sect's army was as strong as the legends say. Tang Bin smiled faintly. It's a pity that Commander Lin didn't bring her own army. What a pity. However, I still don't want to hand over the Tang sect's Iron Order. What should I do? Lin Muyu turned around and stood up. She stuffed the Tang sect's Iron Order into Tang Xiaoxi's palm and said with a smile, now the Iron Order belongs to Xiaoxi. Tang Bin, as her brother, are you going to use the army in your hands to seize Xiaoxi's Iron Order? That is equivalent to seizing the 50,000 soldiers in Seven Seas City that Xiaoxi controls? Tang Bin said coldly, Xiaoxi is my sister. Don't try to sow discord between us. Lin Muyu snorted coldly. Is that so? Tang Bin, you are already the greatest successor of Seven Seas City. Why are you still so greedy? Why are you even determined to obtain Xiaoxi's Tang sect's Iron Order? Nonsense. Don't slander me. Slander you? Lin Muyu raised her eyebrows. Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi is deeply doted on by Duke Lan and will seize your right of inheritance? Do you dare to say that you are not worried that Xiaoxi will threaten you? You, Tang Bin's face turned red and he was speechless. General Li, who was behind him, had already mounted his horse. He waved his saber and said with a smile, young master, there is no need to talk so much with him. Just order the cavalry to charge and take this brat's life. Just say that he stole our Tang sect's Iron Order. The evidence is conclusive. I believe that His Majesty will have nothing to say. Tang Xiaoxi hurriedly spread her arms in front of Lin Muyu. Her pretty face was full of anger as she shouted, Li Liani, you bastard who can't tell right from wrong. Are you going to attack me? Li Liani was stunned. At this moment, the dense sound of horse hooves came from afar. Not long after, a group of Imperial Army cavalry appeared in their field of vision. The leading general pulled out his sword from afar and shouted in a low voice, an unknown army has entered the territory of Lanyan City. Brothers, prepare for battle. It was none other than one of the Kiliarchs of the Imperial Army and the former Gold Star instructor of the Holy Temple, Jianghu. 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers arrived aggressively. Lin Muyu spread his arms and said with a smile, Lord Jianghu, don't be in a hurry to charge. This is just a misunderstanding, hee. He was overjoyed. Jianghu had come just in time. It was as if he had come out of nowhere. Jianghu naturally knew the pros and cons. He raised his thick eyebrows and dismounted. Oh, it's young Master Tang Bin. I was wondering who it was. However, young Master Tang Bin, all frontier vassals need to report to the army before they enter the capital. We, the Imperial Army, did not receive any report from the 1,007 Sea City Cavalry led by young Master Tang Bin. Young Master, is there some misunderstanding? Tang Bin clenched his teeth and cupped his fists. Lord Jianghu, it is indeed a misunderstanding. These 1,000 cavalry were just sent by Seven Seas City to protect me. I did not have the time to report to the Imperial Army. Please forgive me, Lord Jianghu. Jianghui's lips curled up. Oh, so it really is a misunderstanding. Old Jiang, thought that young master wanted to make a move on Lady Lin Muyu. Lady Lin Muyu is one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lan Yen. Whoever dares to make a move on her is a provocation to His Majesty's imperial authority. Since it's not the case, that's great. Young master, please leave. I still have a mission to patrol the city. Old Jiang, please forgive me for not sending you off. Tang Bin nodded. All right, we will meet again in the future. Have a safe trip, I won't send you off. Although Tang Bin was unwilling, he did not have the slightest chance this time. The 1,000 Imperial Army soldiers led by Jianghu were all elite cavalry. They might not lose to his 1,007 Sea City cavalry. Moreover, there was also Lin Muyu, whose strength was unfathomable. Furthermore, Tang Xiaoxi was deeply doted on by Tang Lan. If this matter were to blow up, it would not do him any good. After watching Tang Bin and the others leave, Tang Xiaoxi bit her red lips and said, Mu, I'm really sorry this time. Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Holding her little hand, she said, with our friendship, there is no need to say sorry. But this Tang Bin is really too overbearing. It would be terrible if the Seven Seas province were to be handed over to such a person in the future. Could it be that Xiaoxi, don't you want to take back your position as the successor of Seven Seas City? But Tang Xiaoxi's beautiful eyes were filled with helplessness. Chapter 203. But what? Lin Muyu laughed softly, Could it be that you want to see that scene again? Tang Bin uses his power to bully others. Not only does he bully you but he also bullies your friends. Can you endure all of this? I don't want to. Tang Xiaoxi bit her lips and said, he and I are brother and sister. For the sake of power, I don't want things to go to that stage. But this has been the case since ancient times. Duke Lan dotes on you so much and will definitely leave a place in Seven Seas City for you. At that time, it is inevitable that Tang Bin will attack you with his sword. So it is better to make a decision as soon as possible. Lin Muyu's gaze was sincere and Tang Xiaoxi almost couldn't bear to look at it. She blushed and said, but Seven Seas City has its rules. Only those who have mastered the Firefox seal have the right to become the Lord of Seven Seas City. Grandfather's Firefox seal has already reached perfection and Tang Bin's Firefox seal has also reached the 7th layer. But as a girl I can't even control the 1st layer. It doesn't matter, there will definitely be a way. Lin Muyu took a deep breath and said, let's go ask the 2 elders Lei Hong and Chu Chu and see if they have a way to solve the problem of you being unable to cultivate the Firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi smiled and nodded. She shook Lin Muyu's hand and said with a smile, Mu, it is good to have you here. Lin Muyu smiled and said, do you feel that I am more reliable than your brothers? Don't worry Xiaoxi, I will protect you well in the future and won't let anyone bully you. Good, I will remember what you said today. You must also remember it. I will. Zhang Wei was dumbstruck. My goodness, you guys are treating this general like air and talking about love here. Don't you care about the feelings of a single person like me? Lin Muyu chuckled. Thank you, Lord Zhang Wei, for coming in time this time. In the future, I will definitely put in a good word for you in front of Feng Jixing so that you can become captaincy as soon as possible. Haha, thank you very much, Madam Lin Muyu. I know that you dote on me the most. Tang Xiaoxi was a bit speechless. She looked at Lin Muyu and then at Zhang Wei with worry in her eyes. She grabbed Lin Muyu's hand tightly and said, Mu, let's hurry back to the city. We can't stay here for long. All right. At night, in the Zetian Palace, the moonlight shone on the imperial city like water. Outside Phoenix Perching Palace Hall, Chu Huaying led 20 dragon guards to guard the balcony with their swords and sabers. The moonlight shone on their silver armor, giving off a holy glow. Although the night was cold and bleak, these loyal dragon guards were like stone statues that did not fear the cold. Inside the palace hall, there was a pot of soup on the stove that was slowly boiling. Chu Chu and Rei Hong sat on the floor, sipping tea while Qin Yin, Tang Xiaoxi and Lin Muyu accompanied them. It wasn't easy to invite Rei Hong here in the middle of the night. Furthermore, Chu Chu was also here. It was a rare opportunity for the Empire's 2 great saints to gather. This is indeed a difficult problem. Rei Hong muttered to himself and looked at Tang Xiaoxi. Princess, she is a woman after all, so her physique and the structure of her energy sea are very different from a man's. The Firefox seal is a kind of ultimate technique that is domineering and powerful. A non-man's energy sea is unable to nurture the fire origin energy of the Firefox seal, and without the fire origin energy of the eyes, it is impossible to condense the Firefox seal. Tang Xiaoxi's little mouth twitched, but she didn't say anything. Lin Muyu asked on her behalf, Great Deacon, what is the difference between a man and a woman's energy sea? Why is it that Xiaoyin can use such a powerful martial soul like the god-binding chains, but Xiaoxi can't condense the Firefox seal? There is a huge difference. The one who spoke was Chu Chu. He raised his head and said, although the god-binding chains are powerful and domineering, it is still a martial soul inherited from the bloodline. Although Princess Xiaoyin is a woman, the blood flowing in her body is the true dragon bloodline of the Qin family, so she can naturally bear the domineering god-binding chains. However, Princess Xi's body is very different. She is an extremely normal woman. Lei Hong continued, the sea of qi is condensed in the dantian. In the dantian of a man, there is a profound latch called guanyuan. Every man is born, this guanyuan profound latch is open so it has endless benefits and can practice any kind of powerful martial arts. But after a woman is born, this guanyuan profound latch is sealed, unless she can open the profound latch, otherwise she can't practice some extreme yang techniques. Lin Muyu seemed to see a glimmer of hope and said, then can't we just open Xiaoxi's origin gate? Lei Hong shook his head and said, no. A woman's primordial profound latch is like her own body. Every woman is born with a virgin body. Only after having intercourse with a man will the lower body's profound latch be broken, but the profound latch in the Qi Sea cannot be broken. Once it is broken, the Qi Sea will leak out, which is equivalent to crippling the Qi Sea. Immediately, the faces of Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi turned bright red. Lin Muyu was speechless and said, "The metaphor of a virgin body? It can't be that melodramatic, right? Grand Deacon, don't tell me that the only way is for Xiaoxi to open the profound gate with a man." Lei Hong glanced at him. "In your dreams. Even if that's the case, it won't help. The only way is to open the profound latch and protect Princess Shi of Qi from leaking. Otherwise, even if the profound latch is broken, once the Sea of Qi leaks, she'll be as good as crippled. Then is there any other way?" Lin Muyu was a little anxious. Chu Chu smiled slightly and said, "Little Lin, why are you so anxious for Princess Shi?" Lin Muyu said, "Chu, you don't know, but Tang Bin of Seven Seas City is overbearing. If it wasn't for me and Zhang Wei today, I'm afraid he would have forcefully snatched the Tang Sect Iron Token from Xiaoxi's hands." "So that's how it is?" Chu Chu stroked his beard and a glint shot out from his eyes. Seven Seas City is indeed a huge variable in the Empire. There are more than 200,000 soldiers stationed in Seven Seas City. They are strong and have many strong generals. Tang Bin, Tang Lu and Tang Tian aren't easy to deal with either. Currently, Duke Lan is still alive and can stabilize the situation in Seven Seas Province. But if he leaves one day, I'm afraid there will be chaos in Seven Seas City. As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, "You did the right thing by helping Princess Shi's power. This way, Her Highness will have Princess Shi's help when she ascends the throne. Otherwise, when Her Highness Xiao Yin ascends the throne, the Empire will be in chaos before her wings are fully grown." Qin Yin was stunned. "Father's body is still healthy. It won't happen." Chu Chu shook his head and said, "Her Majesty's wind-cold physique is getting weaker by the day. Xiaoyin, why are you deceiving yourself? You're the heir to the throne and one day you'll be in charge of the Empire. There are some things that you should plan ahead of time. Raham and I are still alive, and we're still able to contribute to your Highness's empire. However, if one day Raham and I are gone, your Highness can only rely on your peers like Ayu, Feng Jixing and Princess Shi." Qin Yin's eyes turned red. "I understand." Lei Hong stroked his white beard and said with a smile, Don't scare Her Highness. It's not that scary. I think that although Her Majesty's body is weak, she can at least continue to be on the throne for another 10 years. Moreover, you also saw that Her Majesty conferred the titles of Wind, Rain, Thunder and Lightning Generals yesterday. In fact, it is to help Xiao Yin cultivate her own generals. Feng Jixing, Lin Muyu, Qin Lei and Chu Huayin have limitless futures. With the four of them, the empire of the Qin Empire will be half stabilized. Qin Yin blinked her eyes and looked at Lin Muyu. She suddenly asked, "Brother you will always be by my side, right?" Lin Muyu was stunned. Looking at Qin Yin's beautiful face, she couldn't help but feel a little flustered. She nodded and said, "Yes, as long as Xiao Yin needs me, I will not leave her." Qin Yin smiled sweetly and she had a beauty that could topple all living things. Lei Hong frowned and said, "It seems that the matter of helping Princess Shi regain the position of the successor of Seven Seas City is imperative. Forget it. Her Highness Xiao Yin, please allow me and Chu to read in the library tonight. How about it? I want to read the ancient books in the Empire's collection. Perhaps if I'm lucky I can find the method to let Princess Shi cultivate the Firefox seal." "Yes." Qin Yin nodded heavily. "I will write a document in a while and let the officials in the library let you in." Lin Muyu said, "Shall I go with you? One more person means a little more hope." Lei Hong nodded approvingly. "All right, then you will go with us." Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi looked at each other and smiled. Thus, they didn't even need to write the document and decided to go together late at night. The five of them were also destined to spend the night in the library. Late at night, there were a total of 10 stoves in the library to keep warm, but it still couldn't stop the cold wind from blowing in through the cracks in the door. Lin Muyu sat among a pile of ancient books and flipped through them one by one. After entering this world for so long, she basically knew the words of this world, so it wasn't difficult for her to flip through them. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi lit up the oil lamps and sat at the table, reading the ancient books under the watch of the maids. As for Lei Hong and Chu Chu, they were constantly wandering among the books, their brows furrowed. Outside the library, Chu Huaying and the other 21 dragon guards were still waiting outside. The moonlight was cold and frost appeared on their shoulders, but no one moved. They still stood majestically in the cold wind. All they could do was use their vital energy to resist the cold, but how could the strength of a human body go against nature? In the blink of an eye, all of their faces turned purple from the cold. When the first ray of sunlight penetrated the clouds and landed in Lanyan City, Chu Chu's slightly excited voice came from the library. Found it. I found it. What is it? Lin Muyu flipped over and rushed over with Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi. They saw Chu Chu holding an ancient book in his hand. 3 words were written on the cover, Jin Ping Mei. Lin Muyu's face immediately turned purple. Chu, did you take the wrong book? No, it's this one. Chu Chu smiled and said, we might have to rely on you to break Princess Xi's hidden latch this time. What do you mean? Jin Ping Mei is a level 10 herb. Combined with level 9 Arhat fragrance, it can be refined into a level 10 medicine called the Perfection Medicine. Do you know about it as a medicine god? Chu Chu's face was full of excitement. Perfection Medicine. Lin Muyu was shocked. Chu Chu continued, it is said that 5,000 years ago, after the great Emperor Crimson Phoenix ascended to the throne, he visited the mortal realm and found a peerless beauty called Chu Rong. However, Chu Rong was no longer a virgin, so the Crimson Phoenix Emperor ordered the world-famous medicine god to create a medicine that could restore a girl's virginity. This is the Perfection Medicine. We can also use this method to open Princess Xi's origin profound latch. Lei Hong and I will use our sacred domain power to protect her Qi from leaking. In this short period of time, Princess Xi can cultivate the first level of the Firefox seal and drink the Perfection Medicine immediately. This way, Princess Xi might be able to cultivate the Firefox seal. Lin Muyu was dumbstruck. He had no choice but to write the word convinced. He rubbed his eyes and said, all right then, we'll immediately search for the Jin Ping Mei and the Arhat fragrance. Damn, this Crimson Phoenix Emperor is also a Virgo with a severe virgin complex. People with OCD really can't afford to hurt him. All right? Chapter 204. Luohangxiang was a very strange herb. It was said to be connected to Buddha, but there were very few people in the Shattered Cauldron realm who believed in Buddha, and they did not believe in the Buddha of Earth, but another Buddha that Lin Muyu was unfamiliar with. However, overall, they still believed in the type of people who lay down the butcher's knife and become a Buddha. I've seen Luohangxiang in the dragon-seeking forest. It's about 2 days' journey from here. Chu Chu nodded and said, so, I'll go find Luohangxiang. Lei Hong, you stay in Zetian Hall for a few days and protect His Majesty and Her Highness. How about that? Lei Hong nodded and said, all right, then what about the Jin Ping Mei? There's no need to look for the Jin Ping Mei. Chu Chu smiled and said, I've seen this herb before. Where? Songnan Province, Governor Hu Tianing's courtyard has a few Jin Ping Mei trees. It's winter now and the plum blossoms are in full bloom. It's the best time to collect the Jin Ping Mei. Chu Chu thought for a moment and said, we'll send someone to Songnan Province's Five Valleys city to find Hu Tianing. Who should go? Lei Hong asked. Tang Xiaoxi volunteered and said, let me go? No. Chu Chu refused resolutely and said, firstly, Princess Xi, you haven't stepped into the heaven realm and your strength is insufficient. Secondly, the distance between the imperial capital and Songnan province is long. There are bandits, mercenaries and people from the House of Chivalry. If there's any mishap, our entire plan will be in vain. As he spoke, Chu Chu looked at Lin Muyu and said, you already have the strength of a heavenly king, and you're also one of the newly conferred 4 heroes of Lanyan. You also have a dragon talisman. How about this, you'll replace Princess Xi and go to Songnan province to get the Jin Ping Mei. You only need to cut a branch and refine the medicinal essence. Lin Muyu said respectfully, all right, I'll go. Qin Yin blinked her eyes, wanting to say something but hesitating. Lei Hong frowned and said, when you committed a crime in Silver Fir City, Hu Tianing once sent several thousand elites of the Flying Mount camp to pursue and kill him. Although they failed, Hu Tianing's hatred for you is clear. Moreover, Hu Tianing is Yu's uncle. I suspect that it will be very inconvenient for you to travel to Songnan. At the very least, a single gilded dragon talisman is far from enough. What else do you want? Lin Muyu asked. Let's ask His Majesty for an imperial edict. Since it's from His Majesty, I believe it won't be a problem to ask for this plum blossom. All right. Chu Chu walked over and patted Lin Muyu's shoulder saying, you must be careful along the way. Pick another 100 Imperial Guards from the Eagle Nest camp to accompany you. Helping Princess Xi to make a breakthrough is also one of the missions of the Eagle Nest camp. As a commander, you can't go to Songnan province alone. Lin Muyu squinted her eyes and said with a smile, could it be that Hu Tianing really dares to kill me? It's best to be careful. Chu Chu slowly put down the scroll in his hand and said with a smile, Hu Tianning has been the governor of Changnan province for many years and can be said to be a feudal lord. Although he comes to the imperial capital to have an audience with His Majesty every year, as the highest governor and military commander of a province, his arrogance is growing day by day. We must guard against him. Alright, I know. I will be careful. Alright, prepare you use letter. If there are any mishaps, immediately send a letter to report to us. Yes. The next morning, after a short rest, Lin Muyu set off from the Eagle Nest camp with the Emperor's imperial edict in hand. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the other capable subordinates were all brought along. In total, she brought 20 imperial guards and 80 elite imperial guards, all of them were cavalry. Outside the north gate of Yanlan City, the royal flag was swaying in the distance. The royal flag was embroidered with a large Qin character. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were there waiting to send Lin Muyu off. Urging her horse forward, Lin Muyu dismounted and cupped her fists respectfully. Xiaoyin Xiaoxi, there is actually no need to send me off with such great fanfare. This will instead let others know. The cold wind caused Qin Yin's princess cloak to flutter. She walked forward and said with a smile, originally Xiaoxi also said the same thing, but I feel that it is better to let more people know that you are going to Changnan province so that Hu Tianning will treat you with more respect. And there is also a bit of truth. Lin Muyu nodded in agreement. Oh right, older brother Yu, I still have a little gift to give you. A what? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Qin Yin smiled with dimples and signaled the maid behind her, bring it over. Yes, your highness. A maid came forward, holding a roll of white blanket embroidered with gold in her hand. It looked very expensive. Qin Yin reached out and held the blanket in front of her chest. Her pair of beautiful eyes looked at Lin Muyu without concealing her reluctance to part. She smiled slightly and said, well, this is the snow fox blanket. The golden flowers on the edge were personally embroidered by me. Older brother Yu, your trip to Changnan province will take at least 3 to 5 days. The wind is cold at night. You should cover yourself with the blanket, otherwise it will be bad if you catch a cold. Lin Muyu couldn't help laughing and said, Xiaoyin is so careful. What do you think? Qin Yin showed a trace of a little girl's look, pouted and said, you also have to take proper care of your body. Although your physique may be stronger than ordinary people, it is still flesh and blood after all. If you don't take good care of yourself, if you get sick when you come back, won't you still have to trouble me and Xiaoxi to take care of you? That won't happen. Lin Muyu's heart warmed. She hugged the blanket and said with a smile, Xiaoyin and Xiaoxi, don't worry, I can take care of myself. You see how old I am. You two are only 20 and I am 24. I'm so much older than you two. If I can't take care of myself, then wouldn't I have lived these 4 years in vain? Qin Yin burst into laughter. No matter what you say, you are right. At this time, Tang Xiaoxi also came forward and said, Mu, don't just say goodbye to Xiaoyin. I also have something here for you. What is it? Come, bring it here. Yes. Several guards of the Duke's mansion came forward, each of them holding something wrapped in white cloth. A faint fragrance filled their nostrils. Tang Xiaoxi opened one of the packages and said with a smile, here, fragrant beef loaf, good quality snow rabbit leg and some fruits to help with digestion. You will need them for your journey. Lin Muyu didn't know what to say anymore. The two girls were really thoughtful and he was already in tears of gratitude. He immediately wrapped the blanket around the warhorse and handed the meat to Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang. He smiled and said, thank you Xiaoxi. You are just as thoughtful as Xiaoyin. Tang Xiaoxi smiled faintly, in any case you should come back early. Just take the official road. You are the royal guard and there are so many of you. Those mercenaries and bandits won't dare to do anything to you. Got it. Then I will set off. Lin Muyu flipped over and turned the horse around to face the two beauties. His expression became solemn, and he suddenly raised his right hand in front of his chest. He lowered his head slightly and performed a standard Empire military salute. His salute was not abrupt, but there was a kind of calmness and steadiness that came after being baptized by wind and frost. Moreover, he was dressed in the Holy Cathedral's uniform, which made him look even more heroic. In an instant, Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi's hearts were in a mess. Qin Yin looked up at him and said, come back early. Let's go. Lin Muyu turned the horse around again and shouted, let's go. The war horses neighed and the sound of hooves gradually became louder. In the blink of an eye, the group had already left Lanyan City. When Lin Muyu and the others disappeared into the horizon, Qin Yin suddenly let out a faint sigh for no reason. She felt a sense of loss in her heart. She reached out to hold the Zine sword and felt the fiery holy power coming from the sword. She could not help but feel a warmth in her heart. She smiled and said, "Xiaoxi, let's return to Zetian Palace?" Tang Xiaoxi looked into the distance and pursed her red lips. She flipped over and mounted the horse, following Qin Yin. They galloped along the official road. After dusk, there were fewer and fewer people on the official road. Wei Chou asked as he galloped, "My lady, there is a post house 10 miles ahead. Should we rest there tonight?" "No need." Lin Muyu held the reins tightly and said, "Continue on our way. We will set up camp and rest at 9 o'clock. Yes. Time passed slowly. The sky was already filled with stars. Not long after it would be 9 o'clock. However, they were in the middle of nowhere. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "We will set up camp next to the forest and rest until sunrise tomorrow. We will set off immediately." "Yes, my lady." The group dismounted one after another. The soldiers of the spiritual medicine department began to cook. Lin Muyu tied up the warhorse and fed it some fodder. She then carried the dragon spirit sword and patrolled around the area to check the terrain. However, it was quite barren here. There were no traces of beasts, let alone humans. This night was destined to be very peaceful. Well, peace was better than anything else. After eating, Lin Muyu leaned against a corner of the tent to rest. She was covered with the snow fox blanket that Qin Yin had given her. She immediately felt a faint warmth in her heart. Qin Yin and Tang Xiaoxi were both attentive girls. Moreover, they were so good to her. What should she do? Although Lin Muyu was not very sensitive to feelings, she was not stupid. She had to make a choice. On the side, Xiahou Sang was sleeping soundly, snoring like thunder. After some time, Wei Chou suddenly opened the curtain and walked in. His expression was solemn. He pushed Lin Muyu's shoulder and said, "My lady, wake up." "Is it morning?" Lin Muyu asked. "No." Wei Chou lowered his voice and said, "Our people found traces of a group of people 5 miles away. There are around 200 people and they are heading straight towards our direction. They will arrive within the time it takes for an incense stick to burn." "Oh, did you see who they are?" Lin Muyu sat up. "People from the House of Chivalry." "Oh." Lin Muyu frowned and said, "People from the House of Chivalry want to attack the Imperial Army again. Have they eaten a bear's heart or a leopard's heart?" Wei Chou smiled faintly and said, "After His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province, these people from the House of Chivalry have become more and more rampant. They are even shouting rebellious slogans." "What slogans?" "I dare not say, speak." They say, "His Majesty is a tyrant and a fatuous ruler. The Imperial Army is just a group of loyal dogs that should not exist in this world." "Is that so?" Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. Naturally, she knew what the House of Chivalry was like. However, since they were so arrogant, there must be someone behind them. Moreover, this person was definitely a schemer. Sometimes, an opponent like Jin Yifan was not scary. Instead, it was an opponent who hid behind the scenes and plotted against them that was the scariest. "My lady, what should we do?" Wei Chou asked. Lin Muyu raised her sword and said, "Don't make a sound. Wake everyone up and maintain the bonfire outside the tent. Everyone is to hide in the forest on the east side. When the people from the House of Chivalry come, we will kill them all." "Yes." Wei Chou's eyes were filled with excitement. Chapter 205. The snow in the forest had melted, but the night wind was so cold that even someone as strong as Xiahou Sang could not help but clench his teeth. He held his sword and hid in the grass. He lowered his voice and said angrily, "This group of rebellious traitors disturb my sleep. How hateful. My lord, should we kill them all or?" Lin Muyu said lightly, "What do you think?" Xiahou Sang's eyes flashed and he said, "Kill." Lin Muyu asked again, "Wei Chou, what do you think?" Wei Chou gripped the demon-devouring bow tightly, his eyes glowing faintly under the moonlight. His expression was solemn as he said, "Although most of these chivalrous men are commoners, most of them have been instilled with the ideals of the House of Chivalry. So even if we show mercy, they will definitely kill us. In this case, if the Imperial Army shows mercy, we will be the ones to suffer." Lin Muyu sighed and said in a voice as soft as a mosquito, "Then kill." "Yes, Commander." The moonlight fell on the pure white cloak of the holy temple. Lin Muyu squinted his eyes. Many people were destined to die tonight. What was he doing? Had he really become a pawn of the Empire? He shook his head. No, definitely not. He had his own judgment and would not be bewitched by others. Here, killing the people of the House of Chivalry was a righteous act. After all, his subordinates, the royal guards, would not bully the civilians. That was enough. The sound of horses' hooves and footsteps came from afar. They were here. Under the moonlight, about 200 people from the House of Chivalry appeared in the forest. They attacked from the west side of the valley. The number of cavalry was small, less than 20. Most of them were wanderers on foot with swords and sabers. Moreover, their cultivation was very average. Needless to say, this was the military strength of a branch of the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province. A wanderer with a scar on his face led the way. He held a long saber in his hand and shouted, "Charge into the camp, leave no one alive." Damn it, these dogs of the Empire, they didn't even send anyone to keep watch. They're digging their own graves. The ranger with the scar on his face had a golden emblem on his chest. He was a Jianghu ranger, but he was not very strong. He seemed to be at the first layer of Earth Realm. Under his orders, a large group of rangers charged into the camp and tore down the tents. They kicked away the bonfire and the soup pot the Imperial Army had set up. They looked incredibly rude and unreasonable. Wei Chou tightened his grip on his bow. He turned to look at Lin Muyu, waiting for his orders. Lin Muyu nodded. Whoosh. An arrow shot out from the demon-devouring bow, directly piercing through Scarface's neck. Fresh blood flowed. A dignified Jianghu ranger had actually been killed by a single arrow from Wei Chou. Fire! Xiahou Sang ordered loudly. Almost all of the 100 royal guards were equipped with longbows. Instantly, arrows rained down on the campsite. Screams of agony could be heard. Before the rangers even knew where their opponents were, they had already lost nearly half of their troops. Clang! Lin Muyu unsheathed her dragon spirit sword. She said in a low voice, "Get on your horses and charge." Yes. The Imperial Army soldiers got on their horses and charged forward quickly. With Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others leading the Imperial Army soldiers, they blocked the way in front. All of them had their martial souls, so how could the rangers resist? Lin Muyu swung her sword from above, slicing a wanderer and his shield into two halves. With another wave of her left hand, the dragon spirit sword chopped off the heads of two halberds. As the sword chi continued to wreak havoc, two more screams rang out. In front of them, 7 rangers on war horses raised their spears and charged over. Lin Muyu immediately sheathed her sword. She reached into her cosmo sack with one hand and pulled out the pear blossom spear with a whoosh. She quickly charged over. The spear glowed with a cold light, and 3 snow-white pear blossoms blossomed in the air. At the same time, 3 rangers fell to the ground howling in pain. Lin Muyu continued forward. She used the spear technique that she had stolen from Zhao Jin. The tip of the spear lightly knocked away the opponent's spear, and the spear directly pierced through his chest. However, this ranger had guts. He reached out to grab the pear blossom spear and roared, "Empire dog, even if I die, I will drag you to hell with me." Lin Muyu coldly snorted and poured battle chi into her right arm. She raised the pear blossom spear horizontally and smashed the ranger's body against the other 2. Immediately, screams rang out. The heads of the rangers collided, and their bodies burst open. A thick smell of blood rushed into her nose, and immediately Lin Muyu almost vomited. She hurriedly activated the wall of the gourd, and a golden light flickered. While protecting herself, she also didn't want to see too many cruel scenes. The battle ended very quickly. When Xiahou Sang chopped off the head of the last ranger, all 200+ rangers had been reduced to corpses. On the other hand, only a few of the royal army had suffered light injuries. It was a crushing victory. Bah! Xiahou Sang spat at a corpse. His eyes were filled with anger as he said, "You bunch of trash want to topple the empire? What a fool's dream." Wei Chou said, "Milord, what do we do now?" Lin Muyu wiped the blood off the pear blossom spear and said, "Search these corpses to see if there's anything valuable on them, then bury them all. We'll set out tomorrow morning." Yes. Xiahou Sang mumbled, "Milord, why bother burying the corpses of these traitors? In my opinion, we should just leave their corpses in the wilderness and let the wild beasts feast on them. At the very least, we should set up stakes along the way and chop off their heads. This will serve as a warning to those who have rebelled against the Empire. Let's see if they still dare to act so insolently." Lin Muyu frowned. "If that's the case, I'm afraid we'll really become the Empire's dogs in their eyes. His Majesty Qin Jin is a benevolent ruler and doesn't want to kill too many people. If we act so cruelly, we'll be playing right into their hands." Xiahou Sang was startled. He hurriedly cupped his fists and said, "This lowly general has not thought things through. Please punish me, milord." "There's nothing to punish. Get back to work." "Yes." Before long, Wei Chou walked over with a blood-stained document in his hand. "My lord, there's something you need to take a look at." "Oh, what is it?" "This is a customs clearance document." Lin Muyu unfurled the scroll. Although it was stained with blood, it did not affect her reading. It was a customs clearance document from Cangnan Province to Lingbei Province. There was even the seal of the governor's office of Cangnan Province on it. Moreover, the clearance document indicated that the target of entry was the 100 people from the House of Chivalry. Wei Chou said coldly, "It seems that this governor of Cangnan Province, Hu Tianning, is really not simple. His Majesty ordered the extermination of the House of Chivalry, yet he still dared to privately issue a customs clearance document to the people of the House of Chivalry. Could it be before that?" "No." Wei Chou said decisively, "The day after the assassination in Deer Garden, His Majesty sent out a letter to announce to the world. But this customs clearance document is dated 5 days ago. No matter how you try to explain it, you can't get away with it." Lin Muyu rolled up the document and stuffed it into her Qingquan bag. She said with a smile, "Just pretend you didn't see this piece of paper." Wei Chou understood tacitly, "Yes, my lord." Hu Tianning was the provincial governor and held the military power of nearly 100,000 troops. This kind of feudal lord could not be casually touched. Just this document was not enough to convict him. Moreover, this time Lin Muyu came to Cangnan Province with a request from Hu Tianning. Even if she wanted to make a move, she had to wait until she obtained the Jinping Mei. 3 days later, the Imperial Guards finally arrived at the core city of Cangnan Province, Five Valleys City. Five Valleys City was one of the 7 famous cities of the empire. It was famous for its water and rice. It had a population of 2.4 million people. The land was fertile and the population was abundant. It was said that half of the food of the imperial capital Lanyan City came from Five Valleys City. It was precisely because of the products of Five Valleys City that Qin Jin ordered the construction of this official road known as the Grain Road, 10 years ago. Looking from afar, the outline of Five Valleys City was very majestic. Although it was not as towering as the imperial capital Lanyan City, it could be considered to have a different style. The city walls of about 10 meters high surrounded the entire Five Valleys City, and one could not see the end of it at a glance. On the main road, there was an endless stream of merchants and civilians, and patrolling guards could be seen everywhere. When Lin Muyu and the others appeared in the sight of the city, a cavalry team in the city came to greet them. The leader was a man who looked like a scholar, but had a protruding mouth and monkey-like cheeks. He smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "I am Hu Yang, commander of the governor's office. Greetings, my lord Lin Muyu, the second of the 4 heroes of Lanyan City. My lord's presence in Five Valleys City makes us feel honored. The governor has sent me to welcome my lord." Lin Muyu smiled slightly. "My lord is too polite. Commander Lin Muyu has come from afar. You must be tired. Please follow me into the city. Governor Hu Tianning has already set up a banquet in the governor's office." "Okay, thank you." Xiahou Sang laughed secretly. "This Hu Tianning is quite sensible." Lin Muyu turned around and glared at him. Immediately, Xiahou Sang did not dare to say anything more. Along the way they entered Five Valleys City in a grandiose manner. When passing through the market, they saw many naked girls dressed in alien costumes being escorted by a group of soldiers. There were about hundreds of people. Some were crying and some were looking at the people around them with cold eyes. Their eyes were full of hatred and anger. Lin Muyu asked with a smile, "My lord Hu Yang, what's the matter with these women?" Hu Yang's gaze swept across and revealed a trace of contempt. He smiled and said, "These are the barbarian sluts of Lingdong Province. Last month there was a rebellion in Lingdong Province. 20,000 barbarian soldiers crossed Tianshu Province along the Qinling Mountains and attempted to attack our Five Valleys City. However, Governor Hu Tianning ordered the Flying Mount Battalion to attack. More than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion quelled the rebellion at almost zero cost." As he spoke, Hu Yang curled his lips and smiled. "Well, these women are all barbarian sluts. After they were captured, they were sold as female slaves. They are very cheap. You can buy one for just a few Jinin coins. Some of the more hot-tempered barbarian women can be bought for just a few dozen silverine coins. Hey, my lord, are you interested in these women?" Lin Muyu shook her head, smiled, and said, "How could that be possible? I'm not that kind of person." Hu Yang also smiled. "My lord, you are so handsome. Indeed, you don't need these lowly barbarian women. By the way, my lord Hu Yang, what will be done with these female slaves in the future?" Hu Yang said, "Those who are good-looking will usually be bought by the nobles or the rich to be kept as their exclusive property. Those who are average or below will mostly be bought by the army to be their concubines. Of course, after defeating the enemy, the army has basically captured enough women to be their concubines, so there is no need to buy too many. Lin Muyu was a little surprised. Is it the rule of the empire to capture women every time they conquer a city? Hu Yang nodded. Yes, this is an unwritten rule. Otherwise, the morale of the army will be damaged. I see. Chapter 206. This time, Lin Muyu did nothing because he could not save these barbarian girls with his ability, and he could only see hatred in their eyes. Lin Muyu knew that he was not the reincarnation of a living Buddha, so he did not bother to be a good person. Some things were better to let nature take its course. The governor's mansion was exceptionally luxurious, even more so than the duke's mansion where Tang Xiaoxi lived. On the doorpost of the duke's mansion in Five Valleys City, reliefs were carved with real gold. The images of rice, livestock, rice and fish were vivid and lifelike, symbolizing that the city was famous for its animal husbandry, fishing and planting as well as its strong army and horses. On the gilded steps, the provincial governor, Hu Tianning, dressed in military attire, walked down step by step with his hand on the hilt of his sword. He cupped his fists and smiled. Welcome Lord Lin Muyu, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, to Five Valleys City. Lin Muyu immediately made a military salute and said respectfully, Lord Governor is too polite, I am flattered. Hu Tianning looked at Lin Muyu and smiled. Heroes truly come from the young. Lord Lin Muyu was just a nameless junior when he left Silver Fir City, but now you've become an outstanding general personally appointed by His Majesty. A scholar who has been away for 3 days must be looked at in a new light. Hu Tianning has no choice but to admire you. Come my lord, you must be exhausted. Follow me to the dining table. Thank you. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and the attendants led the horses away, while Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others followed with their weapons. Five Valleys City was only the center of a province, and could not be compared with Lanyan City. Moreover, Lin Muyu came with the emperor's edict this time. No matter how strict the governor's mansion was, they dared not disarm Lin Muyu and the others. In the hall, a grand luncheon was held to entertain the distinguished guests. Hu Tianning sat at the host's seat, while Lin Muyu sat at the second seat. Opposite Lin Muyu was a young general of about 30 years old. Judging from his aura, this person had stepped into the heaven realm, and was probably the strongest general in the entire governor's mansion. Come. Hu Tianning raised his cup and said with a smile, Today the distinguished guests have come to Cangnan province. Everyone in Five Valleys City rejoiced. Drink with me to welcome Lord Lin Muyu. Everyone raised their cups and drank in one gulp. Suddenly, a burning sensation slid down his throat. Lin Muyu sat there steadily, nodded and smiled. Thank you for your hospitality, Lord Governor, I am very grateful. Hu Tianning laughed. You don't have to be so polite. Come, let me introduce you, this is General Long Qianlin, who was personally conferred the title of Eastern Suppression General by His Majesty 2 years ago. He is currently in charge of Cangnan Province, in charge of 120,000 soldiers in Cangnan Province. Moreover, General Long Qianlin has achieved success at a young age, and Lord Lin Muyu is also a young hero. We can learn from each other. Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said respectfully, Subordinate pays respect to Lord Lin Muyu. Lin Muyu also returned the salute. You are too polite, Lord. It should be subordinate paying respect to you. In terms of military rank, Long Qianlin was a 4th grade general, while Lin Muyu was only a 6th grade general. They couldn't be compared at all. However, the main reason why Long Qianlin was so respectful should be because of Lin Muyu's identity. The emperor's adopted son, one of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, was enough to match the status of a 2nd-grade national general. Hu Tianning put down his cup and said with a smile, Lord Lin Muyu may not know, but General Long Qianlin has just made an unprecedented achievement last month. He led more than 10,000 heavy cavalry of the Flying Mount Battalion to intercept more than 20,000 troops of the Winter Barbarians at the foot of the Qinling Mountains. He forced the barbarians to hastily engage in battle with the tactic of setting fire to their main camp. He won a great victory, beheaded more than 10,000 people, and lost less than 1,000 of his own men. He can be called a famous contemporary general. Lin Muyu was stunned for a moment, then said with a smile, So the battle to defeat the barbarians was commanded by Lord Long Qianlin? My apologies. Long Qianlin couldn't help but be a little mischievous and said helplessly, Actually, those barbarians don't know the art of war. They don't have any tactics or formations in battle, so I was able to defeat them with the heavy cavalry formation. I'm afraid that any general can do the same. I really don't deserve the title of famous general. I only hope that I can reflect on myself every day and live up to the salary that the empire gives me. Lin Muyu couldn't help but have a good impression of this Long Qianlin. It was reasonable to say that a young man who commanded 120,000 troops should be arrogant and supercilious, but this Long Qianlin was still so respectful, which was really rare. Lin Muyu said, "It seems that I really need to ask General Long for advice. I, Lin Muyu, am just a boorish man. I only have strength, but I know nothing about the art of war or the art of war. Lord is too modest." Long Qianlin cupped his fists and said, "If Lord wants to ask for advice, I will definitely tell you everything I know." Lin Muyu smiled slightly, "Thank you." In fact, when it came to the art of war, Lin Muyu had been forced by his father to read Sun Tzu's Art of War and other military books since he was young, so it could be said that he was very familiar with them. The only thing he lacked was the tempering of using troops on the battlefield. Moreover, with his intelligence and wisdom, he would definitely be able to display his strong points. After 3 rounds of wine, Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, and the others were slightly tipsy. Hu Tianning clapped his hands and said with a smile, "Bring on the dancers." Immediately, a group of young girls dressed in chiffon dresses slowly walked into the main hall and danced gracefully to the accompaniment of the musicians. They were overflowing with beauty, and these young girls were all carefully selected. In terms of appearance and beauty, they were all top-notch. For a moment, the group of guests in the governor's manor were already staring at them. Using the excuse of drunkenness, they once again began to drink with each other. Lin Muyu remained sober, using the spirit pulse technique to dispel the drunkenness from her mind time and time again. After an unknown amount of time, Hu Tianning drunkenly stood up, his body swaying a little, and said with a smile, "Today is a joyous gathering, and these dancers are all maids trained by my manor. If there are any that you like, please feel free to bring them back to your room. If these maids are favored by you, then I will not have failed you." For a moment, the deputy generals, brigadier generals, and captains of the governor's manor all laughed drunkenly. Some even stood up and pointed at one of the dancers, shouting with a smile, "I want that one, the one with the biggest breasts." Hu Tianning held the table and said with a smile, "Don't be rude, let the honored guests choose first. Lord Lin Muyu, you are Laozi's honored guest in the imperial capital. Come, among these dancers, which one do you think is the most beautiful?" Lin Muyu stood up, cupped her fists and said with a smile, "Yellow, purple and green, these 3 are the most beautiful." Hu Tianning waved his hand, "Did you hear that? The 3 of you will serve Lord tonight." "Don't." Lin Muyu cupped her fists again and said, "Lord Governor, Lin Muyu has a heavy responsibility this time, so I appreciate Lord Governor's intention. As for these dancers, I'm afraid I don't have the fortune to enjoy them." Hu Tianning was stunned and couldn't help but burst into laughter. "I heard that Princess Shi and Her Highness Yin have a very close relationship with Lord Governor. Looks like it's true, Lord Governor doesn't like these mediocre women." Lin Muyu smiled awkwardly, tacitly agreeing. Hu Tianning continued, "Lord Imperial Guards, if there are any dancers you like, you don't have to be courteous, feel free to choose." Wei Chou cupped his fists and said, "The martial arts manual that I cultivate forbids me from getting close to women. I appreciate Lord Governor's kindness." Xiahou Sang was already dead drunk, his eyes were drowsy and his mouth was dry. He looked at Lin Muyu and asked, "Lord Governor, can this general? Lin Muyu smiled faintly. In any case, only she and Wei Chou knew about the customs clearance documents, and it didn't matter that Xiahou Sang knew very little. She nodded and said, "If there is anyone you like, bring them back." "Thank you, Lord Governor." Xiahou Sang felt as if he had been granted amnesty, and immediately pointed at a group of dancers and said, "The ones in purple and yellow, come together." For a moment Lin Muyu felt like dying. She held her forehead and thought to herself, "Damn it, why do I have such a lecherous subordinate?" From afar, Long Qianlin looked at Lin Muyu's expression and also secretly smiled. As a result, Xiahou Sang and the other 2 imperial guards took away a total of 4 dancers, while the remaining dozens of dancers were given to the high-ranking officers of the governor's office to serve them. Just like Lin Muyu, although Long Qianlin was the highest commander, he rejected Hu Tianning's good intentions. Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others were arranged to stay in the governor's mansion's VIP room. And after Lin Muyu expressed the purpose of her visit, Hu Tianning very happily said that he would send a bouquet of Jinping plums to the VIP room tomorrow morning. This made Lin Muyu feel relieved. This trip to Cangnan province could be considered smooth, and she did not fail her mission. The only flaw was that the noise next door was too loud. Xiahou Sang was full of energy, making the two dancers feel like dying, so much so that their voices penetrated the wall and directly reached Lin Muyu's ears. Ah, Lord Governor is so strong. This lowly concubine can't stand it anymore. Humph, watch carefully, I still have more powerful moves. Lord Governor, don't, I really can't. Lord Governor, you say that Lin Muyu Lord is so handsome, him or you? Who is better in bed? Nonsense, of course my Lord Governor is stronger. If I let you talk more, quickly lie down, I will let you know what is called powerful. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile bitterly. Xiahou Sang's words could be considered as loyal and devoted to her. Walking out of the door, it was a bleak winter, and the fallen leaves in the courtyard slowly rolled with the wind. Lin Muyu casually pulled out the dragon spirit sword, and with the help of her tipsy state, she danced a set of wind-riding sword technique. When she sheathed the sword, she heard applause coming from outside. In the darkness a man came in. It was the general of the east, Long Qianlin. General Long hasn't slept yet? Lin Muyu smiled slightly. Long Qianlin also smiled. Isn't Lord Governor also awake? Just now I saw Lord Governor's swordsmanship. It is indeed outstanding, and can be considered to have reached the realm of lightness. My third-rate swordsmanship, haha, it is not worth mentioning. Lin Muyu laughed, pointed to the stone table next to her and said, would General Long like to sit? Yes. Long Qianlin immediately sat down and asked with a smile, is it the first time Lord Governor has come to Five Valleys City? Yes. What do you think of Five Valleys City? It is very rich and the soldiers are strong. I saw those prisoners of war on the street. Lord Governor, are you referring to those barbarian girls? Long Qianlin's expression darkened and he said, many of those girls were forced to pick up crude weapons to rebel before they reached adulthood, but in the end they became the meritorious service of a third-rate general like me. Lord Governor, if I say this, will you look down on me? Lin Muyu was stunned. No. Long Qianlin pressed his hand on the cold stone table and said with a smile, I don't know how many people died in vain in this battle. I really don't know when the world will truly be at peace. General, are you dissatisfied with the current situation? Lin Muyu suddenly asked. This time it was Long Qianlin's turn to be a little nervous, and he hurriedly cupped his fists and said, no, I do not mean that. I just feel that those barbarian girls are also born by their parents and they are actually the same as us. It is only the difference in culture that makes the hatred between each other irreconcilable. I am not dissatisfied with the current situation, but I am a little presumptuous. I hope Lord Governor can be magnanimous. Lin Muyu couldn't help but smile. It's all right, I also feel a little unfair for those barbarians, but I am powerless. Long Qianlin's eyes shone brightly and he said with a burning gaze, Lord Governor, if you were me, what would you do to those barbarians? Those who offend my territory, no matter how far away they are, must be killed. Yes. Long Qianlin was stunned, and he actually felt a sense of arrogance and domineeringness from Lin Muyu. Chapter 207. The next day, he held a plum blossom in his hand and carefully sniffed its scent. It seemed to be exactly the same as the Jin Pingmei described by Lulu. Presumably, Hu Tianning would not lie to him. After all, not everyone dared to defy the emperor's imperial edict. After repeatedly thanking him, he led Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others to leave Five Valleys City, heading straight for North Ridge Province. The sound of hooves gradually faded. The figures of Lin Muyu and the others had already disappeared on the horizon. Hu Tianning suddenly heaved a sigh of relief and said lightly, Qianlin. Long Qianlin cupped his fists at the side and said, My lord, this general is here. Did you tell Lin Muyu about the barbarian girls and the camp concubines last night? I did. Hu Tianning raised his brows and said, What did he say? Long Qianlin said respectfully, he only said that this matter was slightly unfair, but did not say anything. He doesn't seem like the crazy General Lin Muyu who can smash the nurturing hall in a fit of anger. A bright light flashed in Hu Tianning's eyes, not showing his emotions on his face. This Lin Muyu's current cultivation is far from simple as we imagined. I see that his strength is restrained just like a mortal. This kind of expert is really not simple. In the future, our Tsangnan province should try not to offend this person. This kind of opponent is too terrifying. Long Qianlin nodded and suddenly said, My lord, there are still more than 700 barbarian girls imprisoned in the camp. Many of them are suitable for marriage. This general thinks, perhaps we should not use them as camp concubines. Instead, we should let our soldiers choose and marry them. They will become soldiers' family members and be raised in Five Valleys City. What does Milord think? Haha. Hu Tianning turned to look at Long Qianlin and said with cold eyes, Qianlin, are you really soft-hearted? Long Qianlin hurriedly said, This general just feels that this seems to be extremely unfair to them. As Lin Muyu said, the fate of these barbarian girls should not be like this. We have no right to control it. No. Hu Tianning's voice sank as he said, I just want all of them to join my camp. Qianlin, your literary and military skills are second to none in this world, but you absolutely cannot be soft-hearted. I want you to know that all of this war is just a game of hegemony. There is only benefit and strength, there is no benevolence and there is no morality. Long Qianlin gritted his teeth, cupped his fists and said, Yes, I understand. Qianlin. Hu Tianning's voice softened a bit. If you have time, spend more time with Xiaoyan. She's your fiancée and my daughter. You can't spend all your time on military training, do you understand? Long Qianlin nodded and said, Yes. Sir, after I've collected all the stuffs of the Flying Mount camp, I'll spend more time with Xiaoyan. You can rest assured. Okay. After lunch, they entered the official road and galloped away. Sir, why don't we take out the customs clearance document to interrogate Hu Tianning? Wei Chou spurred his horse forward and looked at Lin Muyu with a puzzled expression. Even if we can't convict Hu Tianning, we can at least give him a warning. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, There's no need for that. If we really shed all pretense of cordiality, this matter may not end well. Moreover, as you can see, the Five Valleys City has a strong army. Their Flying Mount camp is known as one of the most elite heavy cavalry in the north of the Qinling Mountains. The fact that they could annihilate more than 20,000 barbarians with minimal losses is the best proof. Once a conflict breaks out, the 100 of us won't even be enough to fill the gaps between their teeth. As for whether Hu Tianning has any disloyal intentions, it's enough for us to know. There's no need to let him know. Yes, sir is wise. Lin Muyu turned sideways and looked at Xiahou Sang. She smiled and asked, Xiahou, how did the two dancers taste last night? Xiahou Sang blushed and said with a smile, Sir, don't make fun of me. I, Xiahou Sang, don't have any hobbies in my life except for lust. I admit it. The martial arts of the two dancers are really good. Hu Tianning is really hospitable. He is even willing to entertain us with such beauties. Lin Muyu raised the corner of her mouth and said, Don't think that this is a good thing. As the saying goes, one's mouth is short of food. In the future, you will have something that Hu Tianning can use against you. Maybe one day this can take your life. Xiahou Sang couldn't help but laugh. Sir, you worry too much. I, Xiahou Sang, am not the kind of person who will be threatened by others. If Hu Tianning really wants to use this to threaten me, I will fall out with him and sleep with him. I don't owe him anything. Lin Muyu gave him a thumbs up. You are really frighteningly honest. Hee. They galloped to the hour of the sea. Snow began to fall in the jungle near Tsangnan province. Although it was not thick, only about 3 centimeters thick on the ground, it seemed to make the weather become colder. Lin Muyu had been observing every movement in the jungle on both sides along the way. Her eyebrows were tightly knitted. Sir, is there something wrong? Wei Chou was attentive and saw that Lin Muyu was acting strangely. No, there is nothing wrong. Lin Muyu shook her head and said, We will set up camp and rest in another 10 li. Yes. After galloping for 10 li, they set up camp and rested in the jungle on the side of the official road. Lin Muyu fed some fodder to the warhorse and urged it to patrol around. Wei Chou, let out the birds we are raising. Okay. Under Wei Chou's order, the 10 imperial guards took the cage from the side of the warhorse. The moment the cage was opened, the black bird immediately flapped its wings and flew out. This kind of bird was different from messenger birds. They were domesticated for the purpose of war and could serve as scouts. Moreover, the sound of their flight was very quiet and not easy to be discovered. We already have a 10-kilometer radius of detection. Is her still worried? Wei Chou asked with a smile. Lin Muyu stood under a huge rock wall with a long sword in her hand. She rubbed the outside of her hand to keep out the cold. After we left Five Valleys City, something has been following us. Wei Chou was stunned. What is it that we did not discover? It doesn't look like a human. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes and whispered, It looks like a kind of wild beast. I have seen the footprints of that kind of beast many times in the snow. 3 palms, each palm print is in the shape of a diamond. Do you know what it is? Leopard wolf? Wei Chou was shocked and said, According to Sir's analysis, this kind of beast is the legendary leopard wolf. It is said that there are people in the Imperial Army who domesticate this kind of leopard wolf, just like taming hounds, but the leopard wolf is smaller and faster. More importantly, the leopard wolf's sense of smell is hundreds of times stronger than that of a hound, and it is very convenient to use it to track. Could it be that there are people in Five Valley City who domesticate leopard wolves? Lin Muyu said lightly. It's hard to say, Wei Qiu frowned and said, the Five Valley City can indeed be said to have a strong army and strong horses. Moreover, that Long Qianlin is also a peerless general talent. With him in the army, it might not be impossible to tame leopards and wolves. My lord, we might really have our eyes on them. Lin Muyu said lightly, order everyone to not take off their armor tonight. Sleep tight and be ready to attack at any time. Tie the war horses to the side of the camp and don't go too far away. Once the scout birds send the news, everyone must prepare for battle. First, find out who the opponent is and then fight if we can beat them. If we can't beat them, run. Our war horses are all good horses in the western regions, we can definitely outrun them. Yes. It was already late at night after they hurriedly finished the military meal. Lin Muyu did not sleep. She tied the war horses to the side of the central tent and jumped on a high rock at the side of the camp. She reached out to sweep away the snow and lifted her cloak to cover her head. Her pair of clear eyes quietly looked into the depths of the forest in the snow. At the same time, she gradually spread out the spiritual pulse technique. With her current cultivation, she could roughly rely on the spiritual pulse technique to sense the movement within 5 miles, and perhaps it was more useful than the scout birds. After a day of running, she was slightly tired. She gradually closed her eyes and slowly took a nap on the huge rock with her long sword in her arms. After an unknown period of time, an extremely strong fluctuation suddenly came from the spiritual pulse technique. A large group of people with slightly stronger auras entered the detection radius of the spiritual pulse technique. Lin Muyu immediately opened her eyes and flipped down the rock. After she mounted her horse, she came to the camp and said in a low voice, "Everyone get up. Someone is coming." Wei Qiu quickly rushed out of the camp with his sword in hand and said, "My lord, the birds have not returned yet. There's no need to wait. Everyone get on your horses and go to the ravine on the west side to prepare for an ambush." Yes. Everyone skillfully mounted their horses and went to the ambush point. The sound of the horses' hooves landing on the snow was not loud. Very soon, everyone hid and covered the mouths of the war horses. Pairs of eyes in the snow looked into the distance, silently waiting for the visitors. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, a black bird landed on the back of a royal guard. This royal guard had learned how to communicate with scouting birds. After listening to the chirping of the bird, he turned and said, "My lord, there are nearly 500 people, but we can't confirm where they are from for the time being." Lin Muyu nodded. In fact, her spiritual pulse technique had already detected this group of people. There were more than 500 auras, and the strongest one was about the third heaven of the earth realm. There were dozens of people who were basically in the human realm. The rest were not cultivators and were just ordinary boors. However, with so many people moving together, it was obvious that they were not simple. "Don't make a sound. Control your auras and wait for my orders before acting," Lin Muyu said lightly. Yes. First they had to determine who they were. There was no light in the snowy night. In the darkness, vague figures appeared on the forest path. All of them were riding on war horses, but the hooves were obviously wrapped in cloth, so the sound of the hooves was very soft. This group of people also lit torches and all of them were silent. They were much more cautious than the people from the House of Chivalry they had met before. Lin Muyu took a closer look, and under the faint light, she still saw the golden emblem on the neck of the leader. However, it was not the Jianghu Ranger but a chess user. Sure enough, it was the people from the House of Chivalry again. However, this time, it should be the people from the Cangnan province's headquarters. With such a large number of people and a chess user personally coming forward, Wei Qiu turned to look at Lin Muyu, asking if they should act. Lin Muyu slowly opened her palm and a golden light bloomed. The gourd martial soul had already come out of her body. She suddenly shouted, "Royal Guard, close your eyes." The golden gourd soared into the sky, and in the next moment, Lin Muyu activated the special ability of her martial soul, Light of Dawn. A dazzling light bloomed in the dark night as if it was daytime. Such a strong light in a dark space was obviously not something that a normal person's eyes could withstand. In an instant, a large group of rangers were so blinded that they could not open their eyes and were in a mess. Whoosh! A bunch of gourd vines broke out of the ground, and directly wrapped around the body of the chess user's warhorse. Lin Muyu raised her hand, and a small magic sonar blade silently flew out. The blade was enshrouded in a dense battle aura, and in the blink of an eye, a golden light flashed and she became invisible. At the same time she shouted, "Open your eyes and release the arrows." Chapter 208. Wuxia gripped his steel saber and stared at the air in front of him. He could feel the ripples of air being cut, but he couldn't see anything. He could only raise his saber in front of his chest to block the attack. He felt a sudden chill on his neck, and he felt as if his soul had been stripped from his body. He could no longer muster any strength. Puff! The little magic sonar saber revealed its true form after being stained with blood. It spun rapidly in the air, and the sky beast soul hidden in the saber quickly evaporated the blood. It became invisible again and slashed diagonally into the neck of another Jianghu ranger. Only the sound of the saber could be heard but not seen. These cultivators didn't cultivate any secret arts like the spirit pulse technique, so they couldn't block the magic sonar saber's attack even if they could hear it. The little magic sonar saber killed 2 people in a row. One was Wuxia and the other was Jianghu. This was the first time the recast magic sonar saber was used, and it had already made a great contribution. Whoosh whoosh whoosh, arrows flew everywhere and in an instant dozens of rangers were killed or injured on the small path. However, they were still brave. Many of them raised their swords and rushed into the gully, fighting with the royal guards. Kill? The dragon spirit in Lin Muyu's hand fell into the crowd in a beautiful arc, killing more than 10 people in an instant. However, there were too many rangers, and the enemy had mobilized at least half of the main altar's men. For a moment, the two sides were in a stalemate. The royal guard's advantage was their strong individual combat strength. Wei Chou Xiahou sang and the others all raised their weapons and killed in the crowd. The other 18 royal guards also did their best. Their martial souls shone in the forest, and at the same time, clusters of torches were lit, illuminating the surroundings and making the battle even more tragic. Both sides showed no mercy and fought with their lives on the line. Lin Muyu wielded her long sword as she galloped past. Her long sword smashed a shield into pieces and chopped off the ranger's arm. Instantly, the ranger howled in pain as he rolled on the ground. Losing an arm in an instant, the pain was unimaginable. At the same time, a royal guard fell to the ranger's messy swords. More than 100 rangers in the back took out their bows and arrows and started shooting from afar. In the blink of an eye, another 7 or 8 royal guards fell to the ground in pools of blood. Buzz. Lin Muyu opened her hand, and the golden wall of the gourd quickly expanded into a wall in front of everyone. The arrows collided with the wall of the gourd, but they could not penetrate it at all. Looking at the people behind her, Lin Muyu shouted, "Quickly clear the area and retreat." Yes. Wei Chou Xiahou sang and the others fought the enemy with all their might. In just a short while, the 300-plus rangers behind them had all turned into corpses. However, it was clear that the royal guards had suffered heavy losses as well. Many of them were lying motionless on the snowy ground. With the golden wall of the gourd in hand, Lin Muyu shouted at the rangers who were shooting arrows in the distance, "We are the royal guards of Lanyan City. You have repeatedly attacked us. Are you really not afraid of death?" In the distance, a silver exalt ranger held a longbow in his hand and said with a cold expression, "You dogs of the Empire, you have killed so many of our brothers, and you still want to leave here alive?" Without saying a word, Lin Muyu opened her right hand and lightning raged. Suddenly, the dragon spirit sword broke through the air and pierced the neck of the silver exalt ranger like lightning. He wanted to continue speaking, but his Adam's apple had completely turned into a pile of minced meat. How could he speak? He fell to the ground with a roar like a wild beast. Lin Muyu raised her hand and caught the long sword that was flipped back to her. She said lightly, "All of you scram if you don't want to be killed." The group of bronze exalt rangers and iron exalt rangers looked at each other. They had already lost their composure. How would they dare to challenge the god of slaughter, Lin Muyu? One by one, they raised their longbows and quickly turned and disappeared into the woods. "My lady." Wei Chou urged his horse forward. His face and battle robe were covered in blood. He said, "Do we chase after these traitors?" "No need." Lin Muyu put away the wall of the gourd and took a deep breath to stabilize her restless internal breath. She looked at the corpses on the ground and said, "After they failed their mission, they will soon come after us again. Let's leave quickly. We have already lost a lot of people. I don't want everyone to die here." "Yes, break camp and hurry through the night." They hurriedly buried the bodies of their companions. The battle lasted less than 10 minutes, but 21 Imperial Guards were killed, 11 were seriously injured and 32 were lightly injured. Almost half of them were wounded. Only Lin Muyu, Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and a few others who were above the third heaven of Earth realm were unharmed. But this was enough to make Lin Muyu's heart ache. Although there were more than 7,000 Imperial Guards in Lanyan City, too many of them had died in this battle, and they were all loyal and brave soldiers of the Eagle Nest camp. If one died, there would be one less. Even if they were replaced, they would only be new soldiers. Their combat ability could not be compared at all. In the early hours of the morning, the war horses were snorting violently. Lin Muyu held the reins and kept moving forward at a high speed. They had to reach Lanyan City as soon as possible, or the House of Chivalry would not let them have an easy time. At this point they could no longer rest for the night. After discussing with Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang, they set off at night. If they did not sleep for a day and a night, they would probably reach Lanyan City directly. Sure enough, the House of Chivalry did not have many horses, so it was impossible for them to use cavalry to chase and kill. In this way they naturally could not catch up with Lin Muyu and the others. After a day and a night of running, several war horses were so tired that they were foaming at the mouth. Fortunately, on the morning of the third day they could see the outline of Lanyan City in the distance. But suddenly the spiritual pulse technique once again sensed the dense aura of experts appearing on the road in front of them. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his arm and shouted in a low voice, "Draw your swords and prepare for battle." Yes. Xiahou Sang pulled out the spear from the back of the horse, while Wei Chou took out the demon-devouring bow. It was always good to be able to kill a few people before the close combat. After bypassing a cluster of bushes, the aura appeared, but it was not the enemy, but the Imperial Guards led by Feng Jixing, Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and others were camping on both sides of the road, waiting. "They're here." Zhang Wei laughed and said, "Lady Lin Muyu and the others have returned safely." Feng Jixing hurriedly mounted his horse and greeted them with a smile. Have you been all right?" Lin Muyu shook her head and said, "What happened, Brother Feng? Why are you waiting for us outside the city?" "It's a long story." Feng Jixing frowned and said, "Let's talk on the way." Yes. The Imperial Guards all mounted their horses and protected the group of Imperial Guards. Feng Jixing and Zhang Wei stood on either side of Lin Muyu to protect her. They all looked very serious. "What happened?" Lin Muyu asked. Feng Jixing said, "After His Majesty ordered the annihilation of the House of Chivalry, the local officials and troops did not do their job well. The House of Chivalry became more and more arrogant. 3 days ago, Chu Huayin was ordered to escort a batch of weapons back to Lanyan City from Cold Star City. On the way there he was attacked by the House of Chivalry. The battle was very tragic. More than 300 Imperial Guards were killed, and even Chu Huayin himself was injured." Lin Muyu was stunned. "God? Brother Chu was injured? Who ambushed him? How could they be so strong that even someone like Brother Chu was injured?" Feng Jixing nodded. According to the investigation, the ambushers were from the House of Chivalry in Earthstar Province. They sent a Grand Travel Agent, 3 Grand Travel Agents, and 7 Jin Zuns, a total of more than 2,500 people to participate in the battle. Chu Huayin brought 700 Imperial Guards with him. The heavy losses were expected, but old Chu was indeed very strong. The price of him being injured was that the Grand Travel Agent of the House of Chivalry was seriously injured. All 3 Grand Travel Agents were killed, and more than a dozen Jin Zun and Silver Venerable were also killed. As he spoke, Feng Jixing looked at Lin Muyu's expression and said, Were you also attacked along the way?" "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded slightly. "I was attacked once on the way there and again on the way back. They were also from the House of Chivalry, but I didn't lose that many people. A day ago 21 Imperial Guards were killed. They didn't send that many people, only about 500 in total. If they had sent more than 2,500 people, I'm afraid I wouldn't have been able to come back." Feng Jixing took a deep breath. "Damn, these bastards from the House of Chivalry are trying to slap His Majesty in the face. What do you mean? In the past 5 days, you and old Chu weren't the only 2 troops marching on the official road. There were many other troops dispatched, but only the 2 of you were attacked. Moreover, you 2 are also newly conferred by His Majesty as one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen, one of the 4 generals of wind, rain, thunder, and lightning. The intention of the House of Chivalry is too obvious. Killing either you or old Chu will damage His Majesty's prestige." Lin Muyu clenched her teeth and said, "The House of Chivalry is now openly challenging His Majesty. They are cursing His Majesty as a fatuous ruler and fabricating all kinds of evidence that His Majesty is a tyrant to confuse people. If we let them continue like this, I'm afraid His Majesty will lose the hearts of the people. Isn't that right? Feng Jixing nodded and said, this matter needs to be discussed at length. We will report to His Majesty in detail when we return to Zetian Palace. Yes, how is Brother Chu's injury? Is it serious? It's all right. A few of his ribs are broken. I'm afraid he won't be able to fight for the next half a month. That's good. He can take half a month off and spend more time with Miss Jinxiang. Lin Muyu smiled and said, does Brother Feng also think that Brother Chu and Miss Jinxiang will be a couple? Of course. Feng Jixing raised his gaze and said, they are a perfect match. Chu Huayin is my brother. Of course, I hope that he can find happiness. Jinxiang is gentle and kind. She can make old Chu's heart feel at peace. Yes. Lin Muyu smiled and said, Brother Feng, you're not young anymore. Why haven't you thought about your marriage? Feng Jixing was stunned. He shook his head and laughed at himself. I, Feng Jixing, have been living on the edge of a knife all my life. It's better not to be a burden to others. Let's not talk about this. Let's go back to Zetian Palace quickly. Yes, okay. Chapter 209. In the Zetian Palace, purple smoke lingered around the incense burner, and waves of fragrance wafted in the air. There were 2 rows of imperial guards on both sides, but only Qin Lei was there. Chu Huaying, the commander of the dragon guards, had already taken leave to recuperate. Feng Jixing and Lin Muyu walked side by side into the main hall. At this moment, Qin Jin, dressed in a dragon robe, came to the throne. He frowned and asked with concern, I heard that you were also attacked. How are you? Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, I'm fine. I only lost 21 brothers of the Imperial Guards. Qin Jin heaved a sigh of relief and said, it's good that you're fine. I can't let 2 of my wind, rain, thunder, and lightning generals get hurt at once. Otherwise, I'm afraid everyone in the world will laugh at me. Feng Jixing said, Your Majesty, the House of Chivalry has been attacked time and time again. This matter cannot be delayed. The Empire can no longer tolerate the House of Chivalry. Qin Jin revealed a hint of anger and said, I also know that the expedition order has already been issued to the governors of the various provinces. But this group of good-for-nothings only know how to receive their salaries but don't know how to do things. They either say that their generals are sick, or they send troops but don't fight. I really don't know what's the point of raising this group of useless people. Lin Muyu thought for a moment and said, Your Majesty, in fact, many of the provincial governors and other officials are acquainted with the higher-ups of the House of Chivalry. Some of them are even in cahoots with each other. If we really want to attack them, I'm afraid that it will hurt the interests of these governors. This is probably the biggest reason why they are unwilling to really attack the House of Chivalry. How do you think we should destroy the House of Chivalry? Qin Jin asked with a smile. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and said, Just send the generals to lead the troops to attack them. If the local generals are unwilling to send troops, then we can directly choose generals from Lanyan City. Qin Jin raised his eyebrows and said, It seems, this idea is not bad, but there aren't many generals that can be used in the imperial capital. You can be considered one. General Chu Huai is injured, Feng Jixing is in charge of the imperial capital's defense, and Qin Lei has to protect Zetian Palace Hall. The people that can be used, perhaps Yuan Lian and Ling Feng can be considered candidates? Lin Muyu smiled and said, Actually, Feng Jixing's subordinates, Zhang Wei, Luo Lai, and the others are all fierce generals who can take charge of an area. Your Majesty can also put them in an important position. Qin Jin smiled. General Feng, are Luo Lai and Zhang Wei really as you said? Feng Jixing cupped his fists and said, Yes, if this subordinate is unable to personally lead the army, Zhang Wei and Luo Lai can indeed lead the army to kill the enemy. All right. Qin Jin patted the armrest of the dragon chair and said, Pass down my order. Promote Zhang Wei and Luo Lai to deputy generals. Each of them will lead 5,000 imperial guards to destroy the rebels of the House of Chivalry within 500 miles of Lanyan City. Feng Jixing said, Your Majesty, it is not enough to just destroy the House of Chivalry in the North Ridge province. We must send troops to the surrounding provinces around Lanyan City, such as Earthstar Province, Sangnan Province, Sea of Qi Province and Heaven's Pivot Province. We must wipe out the forces of the House of Chivalry north of the Qinling Mountains in one fell swoop. Yes. Qin Jin narrowed his eyes and said, You are the commander of the Eagle Nest Battalion. It is already winter and your tasks will be greatly reduced. Are you willing to take advantage of this time to wipe out the rebels in Sangnan province for my imperial father? I am willing. Lin Muyu cupped his fists and bowed. He did not dare to overstep his authority by calling him imperial father. With this kind of relationship, it was fine to call him emperor. Lin Muyu knew his own limits and knew when to advance and when to retreat. Qin Lei, who was at the side, said, Your Majesty, the military strength of the Eagle Nest Battalion is less than 1,000 people, but the Rangers in Sangnan province have gathered at least 30,000 people. I am afraid that this number of troops is not enough to wipe out the rebels. Of course I know that. Qin Jin stroked his beard and said with a smile, After the deployment of the Imperial Guard, there are only 20,000 left and they cannot be used anymore. There are two other armies within the territory of Lanyan City. One is the 90,000-strong Tianchong army, and the other is the 40,000-strong Longquan army that guards the Imperial Mausoleum. Feng Jixing, Qinlei, which army do you think should be given to you to command? Feng Jixing thought for a moment and said, Although the Tianchong army has 90,000 strong soldiers, they are responsible for guarding the Qihai stronghold. I am afraid, the deployment of the Tianchong army is inappropriate. Your Majesty should also know that Duke Lan has 200,000 soldiers in Qihai City. If we move the Tianchong army away, Duke Lan's army will be able to pass through the Qihai stronghold and enter Lanyan City without a hitch. Qin Jin took a deep breath and said, This? We also know, but Duke Lan has always been loyal and devoted. He should not be disloyal. Besides, isn't Shaoxi still in Lanyan City? Shaoxi is only... Feng Jixing wanted to say something but stopped himself. His eyes flickered as he cupped his fists and said, This general only has a suggestion. As for the specifics, I will leave it to your Majesty to decide. Qinlei, what do you think? Qin Jin looked at Qinlei. Qinlei did not have so many misgivings and said bluntly, Although Shaoxi can move freely in Lanyan City, Grand Duke Tanglan has sent Shaoxi to live in Lanyan City for so many years in order to express his feelings to your Majesty. He would rather leave his most beloved granddaughter in Lanyan City as a hostage. This has already explained everything. On the other hand, Longquan army is said to guard the Imperial Mausoleum in name, but in reality, it is mutually dependent with the Imperial army. Together they guard the Imperial capital. Therefore this general believes that Longquan army cannot be moved. However, the Tianchong army can be deployed for use. Qin Jin smiled in satisfaction. This is exactly what I was thinking. How about this? I will immediately write an imperial edict for you, ordering you to head to the Seven Seas Pass and deploy 20,000 elite troops from General Du Hai. After that, you will enter Sangnan province. You must eliminate all the rebels from the House of Chivalry in Sangnan province within a month. Can you do it? Just as Lin Muyu was secretly sighing that Tang Xiaoxi's status in Lanyan City was not as glorious as it seemed on the surface, she raised her head and said with clear eyes, I cannot guarantee whether I can do it or not, but I will definitely do my best. Your Majesty, I have stayed in the House of Chivalry for a period of time, and even know the filth of the House of Chivalry. Please rest assured I will definitely do my best. Qin Jin could not help but laugh. Yu's words make us very happy. Good, I will immediately write an imperial edict and prepare the tiger seal for you. In addition, I will promote you to be the general of the south, so that you will have the authority to command 20,000 troops. Many thanks, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and at the same time asked in a low voice, the general of the south, just how high is his rank? Feng Jixing laughed in a low voice and said, the rank of the general of the south is much higher than your previous rank of General Long Xiang, and your commanding power is captaincy. In short, you can only command 20,000 people if you wear the General of the South seal. Otherwise, how will you be able to command the generals under you if they are all of a higher rank than you? Lin Muyu was pleased. I understand. Not long after, the imperial edict was written. Qin Jin's handwriting was excellent, and even without the emperor's seal, others would probably be able to recognize it. However, with the golden clay seal, it was even more convincing. At this time, an official handed the General of the South seal and token to Qin Jin. Qin Jin walked forward and said in a low voice, General of the South Lin Muyu, receive my seal. Yes, Your Majesty. Lin Muyu cupped her fists and bowed. She lowered her head and opened her hands to receive the seal. Beside the heavy blood-red general seal, there was a golden general token with the words South carved on it. The seal was too heavy and he couldn't bring it along with him at all times, but this token could prove Lin Muyu's identity and status. He couldn't help but feel a little happy. Perhaps it was because the military rank of the Xiang Dragon General was too low that he didn't even have a seal, but now he could finally have his own identity and status. Qin Lei chuckled at the side. Congratulations to you for being promoted to the rank of captaincy. Lin Muyu replied with a smile. Thank you, Commander Qin Lei. Qin Jin placed his hand on Lin Muyu's shoulder and said in an extremely gentle voice, You, my child, no matter the outcome of this battle, you will always be father's pride. This expedition to the Cangnan province is just a chance for you to train your troops. Go, be careful along the way, father and your younger sister will miss you. Qin Jin was the emperor of a generation, but at this moment, the expression he revealed was actually like a father sending off his son who had enlisted in the army. Even Lin Muyu had an illusion that at this moment, Qin Jin's aged appearance actually overlapped with his father Lin Shun's impression. The same prematurely aged weariness, the same loving affection. I know, father, he said in a low voice. Qin Jin was also startled. He clenched his fists and slowly loosened them. He said, Go, father will prepare a celebratory feast for you at Zetian Palace. Yes. Lin Muyu placed the imperial edict and token in his chest pocket, then led his horse out of Zetian Palace. Feng Jixing and Chu Huaying also sent him all the way to the outskirts of the palace. Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang and the others were still waiting for him, so he brought everyone back to the Eagle Nest camp. He did not know how long this trip would take. There were too many things in Lin Muyu's heart that he could not let go, so after dinner he went to visit Chu Yao, then went to the Duke of Seven Seas' residence to chat with Tang Xiaoxi for a while. Although Chu Yao and Tang Xiaoxi could not bear for him to leave, after all Lin Muyu's current status was different. He was one of the high-ranking generals of the empire, and there were too many things that he had no choice but to do. Life was like the billowing waves of the deep sea, and Lin Muyu could not extricate himself from it. He was very clear that he needed to grow and experience, otherwise if he was not strong enough, he was afraid that a small disturbance would be enough to consign him to eternal damnation. The grudge with the Divine Marquis residence was enough to explain everything. He needed to obtain status and military power in the Empire's army, otherwise he would be worthless. He refined the perfection elixir for Tang Xiaoxi that night, but he did not have the time to see how she completed the cultivation of the Firefox seal. Early the next morning Lin Muyu led Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and a total of 60 Imperial Guards out of the Eagle Nest camp. This time he did not bring too many Imperial Guards, but he brought all the Imperial Guards. Lin Muyu needed this group of people to escort him on this mission. Moreover, would it be successful to use the Northern Ridge Province's army to enter Cangnan Province to eliminate the rebels? Probably not. Unconsciously, the image of a person surfaced in Lin Muyu's mind. Long Qianlin, the person with the highest military power in Cangnan Province, would definitely not let things go too smoothly for him. After all, Cangnan Province, Five Valleys City, House of Chivalry, there were too many connections. Chapter 210. The wind and rain drifted across the horizon, connecting heaven and earth into one. The surroundings were eerily cold. Amidst the violent galloping of hooves, the 60 Imperial Guards led by Lin Muyu passed through the cold leaf forest and stepped into the borders of the Seventh Sea Pass. Every one of them wore a silver helmet over their head and a white cloak over their face. Their heads and shoulders were already covered in snow, and even their exposed eyelashes were covered in a layer of frost. The Seventh Sea Pass was far colder than Lanyan City and could even be considered a land of bitter cold. Chirp, chirp. With a sudden tug on the reins, Lin Muyu reined in his warhorse so quickly that it almost threw him off. He lifted his cloak, revealing a handsome face covered in frost due to the severe cold. Looking up, he could see a forest of mountains in the distance, and between them was an official road that led straight to the Seven Seas province. At the end of his line of sight was a towering fortress amidst the wind and snow. They had arrived at the Seventh Sea Pass. Sire. Wei Chou pointed ahead and said, Look, the scouts from the Tianchong Corps are coming. Not long after, silhouettes appeared one after another in the blizzard. They were all heavily armored soldiers of the Empire. Dang, dang, dang. A group of scouts drew their swords and surrounded Lin Muyu and the others. The leader of the group, a middle-aged general, shouted, Who are you? How dare you trespass the Seven Seas? Lin Muyu took out his token and said, The newly appointed General of the South, Lin Muyu, has come on His Majesty's edict to seek an audience with General Du Hai of the Tianchong Corps. You're Lin Muyu? The middle-aged general raised his eyebrows and said with a smile, To think that such a legendary character in the imperial capital would actually look like a pale-faced young man. How strange. Ha, since you're the general of the south, then come with me. I'll take you to see our clan's general. Many thanks. The scouts turned around and raised the Tianchong corpse flag high in the wind and snow, shouting, "Clear the way!" The sound of horse hooves grew louder as about 200 riders approached the Seven Seas Pass. As they got closer and closer to the fortress, Lin Muyu looked up and could not help but marvel at the fortress's defensive capabilities. The walls were almost entirely made of huge stones and were about 50 meters tall. It was not an exaggeration to call it a natural stronghold. The walls even looked like they were made of molten steel. The walls were filled with sharp knives that were embedded into the walls, making it impossible to climb them. In other words, the only way to conquer the fortress was to break the gate. However, the gate was a giant gate made of pure iron. Ordinary attacks seemed to have no effect at all. Open the door. The middle-aged general raised the token in his hand high up. Amidst the snowstorm, the soldiers on the walls waved their hands, and the gates slowly opened. Accompanied by the sound of metal chains twisting, the meter-thick steel gates slowly opened. Inside the city, a group of soldiers wielding sabers and swords stood in formation, ready for battle. The faces of these Sky Crest Legion soldiers were filled with fighting spirit and training. "General Lin, come with me." "Thank you." Riding on the war horses, the group of people followed the scout general along the main road in the stronghold. Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang looked left and right at everything around them. Both of them had a trace of shock in their eyes. How was this a pass? This was clearly a strong city. The scout general seemed to be able to tell what they were thinking. With a slight smile, he waved his hand and said, "General, as you can see, the Seven Seas Pass is impregnable. It is known as the world's #1 fortress. There are many weapons and rations stored in this city, enough to last an army of 90,000 for 7 years. In order to build this Seven Seas Pass, the previous emperor spent a total of 21 years. Lin Muyu nodded. "It's a miracle." "Ha." The scout general's face was filled with pride. General Du Hai is known as the leader of the Empire's 7 divine generals. He has guarded the Seven Seas Pass for nearly 10 years, and there has never been a single mishap. 10 years? Lin Muyu was stunned. The Empire's 7 divine generals? That's right. The scout general rubbed his nose awkwardly and said with a smile, "But this title was decided by the brothers in the army. His Majesty hasn't approved it yet. Just treat it as a joke." Lin Muyu's interest was piqued. She asked, "May I ask which 7 generals are they?" "According to the order of ranking they are, Du Hai, Xiangyu, Feng Jixing, Qinlei, Feng Tianan, Jiao, Linyu. My great general's ranking is even higher than Xiang Wentian's descendant, Xiangyu." Lin Muyu smiled and didn't say much. However, she was even more interested in this Du Hai. What kind of person would the current #1 general of the Qin Empire be like? At this moment they arrived at the second wall of the Seven Seas Pass. A soldier's voice came from above. "Open the Tiger Gate." Creak. The sound of metal chains twisting was extremely ear-piercing. The gate inlaid with a golden tiger head slowly rose. Lin Muyu and the others quickly urged their horses in. Finally they arrived at the center of the fortress. Inside the Tiger Gate was a large hall. Although it was solemn and dignified, it could also be said to be simple. Piles of flames illuminated the interior of the hall brightly. On both sides of the hall were soldiers of the Imperial Guard camp with their hands on the hilts of their swords. Lin Muyu's gaze swept across the hall. There were at least 3,000 of them. It was truly a tight security. In the center of the hall, a group of generals stood on both sides drinking wine. The scout general walked forward and reported, "Great General, General of the South Lin Muyu of Lanyan City requests an audience with His Majesty's Imperial Edict." "Let him in. It's been hard on you. General Lu, you may leave." "Yes, Great General." Lin Muyu led Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang in. Immediately the Tianchong army generals on both sides glared at them, creating an invisible pressure. Some of these generals even had the rank of captaincy, with 2 golden hexagrams on their necks. It was truly a frightening sight. The 40-year-old general sitting in the middle had 3 golden hexagrams and 7 to 8 scars crisscrossed across his face. Staring at Lin Muyu with a fiery gaze, he suddenly stood up, cupped his fists and said with a smile, "General Lin has come from afar. Please forgive Du Hai for not welcoming you earlier." Lin Muyu cupped his fists respectfully and said, "Great General, please forgive this subordinate. I have come with His Majesty's Imperial Edict. Please receive it, Great General." "Yes." At the mention of His Majesty, The wild and untamed look on Du Hai's face was instantly swept away. He hurriedly walked up to Lin Muyu and knelt down on one knee, cupped his fists and said, "General Du Hai receives the imperial edict." The other 20-odd generals also knelt down one after another, their faces filled with solemnity. Lin Muyu took out the imperial edict and read it out. Great General Du Hai is to assign 20,000 elite soldiers to General Lin Muyu of the south to head to Cangnan province to exterminate the remnants of the House of Chivalry in the mountains. The time limit is 60 days. Regardless of whether the mission is exterminated or not, Lin Muyu must return the 20,000 soldiers to the Seven Seas Pass. Du Hai is not to be negligent in any matter that is required. Du Hai was stunned. Raising his head, he asked, "His Majesty wants this general to lend you soldiers?" Lin Muyu nodded. "Yes, General, please receive the imperial edict?" "Yes." Du Hai raised his hand to receive the imperial edict. After reading it, he smiled and said, "General Lin Muyu is a young hero. How rare. To think that when I, Du Hai, was your age I was still a small lieutenant, but General has already become a general of a town and received His Majesty's favor. You can command 20,000 soldiers. Many of the commanders in the Empire's army are not as powerful as you. How enviable." Lin Muyu did not know how to respond to his lukewarm words and could only reply respectfully, "Great General, you are flattering me. I am only indebted to His Majesty's undeserved favor. May I know when Great General will be able to assign these 20,000 elites to me?" "There is no hurry. 20,000 people is not a small number. We need to carefully count them. Moreover, I still need to provide war horses, weapons, rations and many other matters for these 20,000 soldiers. I will hand them over tomorrow morning. What does General Lin think?" "Good. Thank you, Great General." "You're welcome. We are all serving the Empire. There is no need to distinguish between us. Come, General Lin and the other 2 generals, have a seat. The weather is cold. Drink a cup of wine to warm your body." "Thank you." It was already dusk and everyone was slightly tipsy. Some of the generals were already dead drunk. Lin Muyu remained clear-headed the entire time. Right at this moment, Wuxia walked over and whispered into his ear, "Master, this subordinate just went down to check on the process of selecting soldiers. They are simply bullying us too much. They only gave us some old soldiers and new soldiers. Some of the old soldiers are already close to 60 years old. How can they still fight?" "Are you sure?" "Absolutely." Wuxia raised his head and glanced at Du Hai. "This Empire's great general is only SOSO. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, "All right, let's not talk about it anymore. If they are veterans, then so be it. It's not a big deal. Veterans are also a kind of intangible wealth. It's fine. I was worried that they wouldn't be willing to lend me their men. It's already good enough that they are willing to lend me their men. After all, these 90,000 men are also Du Hai's flesh and blood." "Yes, my lord is right." After drinking for a while, Du Hai's eyes looked drowsy. He smiled and said, "Dare I ask General Lin, have you ever led troops in the Empire before?" Lin Muyu shook her head. "No." "Oh." Du Hai couldn't help but smile and said, "His Majesty actually dares to hand over 20,000 men to someone who has never led troops before. As expected, he thinks very highly of you." As he said this, he muttered to himself for a moment before smiling, "General Lin, I have something to say but I'm not sure if I should say it." "Great General, please speak." "Since General has never led troops before, then this old man will choose someone from the army to join the army. This person will follow the army and give you advice. How about it?" "This." Lin Muyu thought for a moment. Seeing Du Hai's "if you don't let me lead, I won't give you any men" look, she could only nod helplessly. "All right then, as General wishes." "Ha, that's good." At this time, everyone had eaten and drank to their fill. Du Hai immediately stood up and said, "Generals, since you have eaten and drunk your fill, then return to your camps to rest. Tomorrow morning you will wake up to train the troops." "Yes, General." The group of generals stood up and took their leave. "General Lin Muyu, please stay," Du Hai suddenly said with a smile. Lin Muyu didn't know what he was up to. She stood there in shock and watched as Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang went to wait outside the tent. "Great General, what's the matter?" he asked. Du Hai muttered to himself, his eyes filled with coldness. He sneered and said, "The 90,000 men in the 7 seas were raised by me, Du Hai. Can be said that every one of them is my brother. To ask me to hand over these brothers of mine, I really can't bear to. Lin Muyu, if you want my 20,000 men, that's fine. But first I, Du Hai, see what you're really capable of. What do you think?" Lin Muyu's eyes were filled with savagery. She knew that things wouldn't go so smoothly. Du Hai laughed and raised his hand to draw a long saber into his hand. He said, "Take 3 of my saber strikes. If you can't even take these 3 strikes, then there's no need for you to lead your troops into battle." "All right." Lin Muyu raised her hand and unsheathed the dragon spirit sword. The sound of the sword resonated around the tent. "Not good, they're going to make a move," Wei Chou said with a frown. Xiahou Sang took a deep breath and said, "Don't worry. Although Du Hai is at the 3rd heaven of the heaven state, my lord might not lose. Also, Du Hai wouldn't dare to do anything to Lord. I hope so." Chapter 211. Ha. With a shout, Du Hai's entire aura changed rapidly. Endless Do Qi surged out of his body and his long saber let out a series of sharp whistles. One after another, milky white Do Qi spirits surrounded the long saber. This was the sign of the 3rd heaven of the heavenly realm, condensing Do Qi. Do Qi spirit was the Do Qi spirit and could greatly increase the destructive power of Do Qi. This was also the sharpness of the 3rd heaven of the heavenly realm. Du Hai's eyes were filled with arrogance as he laughed. "My saber technique is not like Feng Jixing's wind saber technique. Du Hai's saber technique is a school of its own and is only refined for killing. Come, take my first saber, Thousand Army Chaos." A mighty strike swept over. Du Hai's attack was definitely not simple. Lin Muyu could feel the endless power contained in this saber and did not dare to be careless. She quickly raised her Do Qi to the limit and quickly added on the black tortoise shell, dragon scale wall and green rock armor. A thick Do Qi armor also appeared on the surface of her body. At the same time, she held the dragon soul sword with both hands and raised it vertically. Her Do Qi surged to block Du Hai's attack. Bang! There was a loud sound of energy colliding. The black tortoise shell instantly shattered and cracks appeared on the dragon scale wall. As expected, defense alone was not enough to block Du Hai's attack. The long saber collided with the dragon soul sword with a ding sound. Lin Muyu was forced to take a few steps back. She quickly lowered her center of gravity and stood firmly. She looked at Du Hai with a serious expression. The black tortoise shell quickly reformed under the recovery ability. However, it seemed that it was too late to block Du Hai's second attack. Oh! Seeing that Lin Muyu had actually received the first attack unscathed, a trace of astonishment flashed across Du Hai's face. He said, "One of the 4 heroes of Lanyan, Lin Muyu, is indeed not bad. Hey, take my second saber, battle formation dance." The long saber was waved for the second time. This time, a total of 4 Do Qi were condensed. The long saber descended from the sky and quickly blew out the surrounding lights. It also plunged the entire central army hall into darkness. However, the dragon spirit sword in Lin Muyu's hand shone brightly. This time he did not intend to defend, nor could he defend at all. The 7 luminaries' profound energy rapidly flowed into the long sword, and the blood-colored demonic energy quickly lingered around the blade. Lin Muyu lowered her body slightly and suddenly exploded. The long sword rushed upwards, and this move was very similar to Feng Jixing's devil blade swallowing heaven. In fact, it was more or less stolen from Feng Jixing. Clang! A dazzling spark exploded in the air. The dragon spirit sword was so sharp that it actually forcefully deflected Du Hai's second attack. However, Lin Muyu did not feel good. Both her arms were numb, and the blood in her body was in turmoil. She spun and landed on the ground. She retreated more than 10 meters and hit a stone pillar before stabilizing herself. On the other hand, Du Hai was much calmer. He floated to the ground, and the long saber in his hand was still enshrouded with Do Qi. He looked at Lin Muyu without a change in expression. However, Du Hai's heart was not as calm as he looked on the surface. At this moment, his heart was in turmoil. He did not know when such a young expert had risen within the borders of the empire. In terms of cultivation, he was not the least bit inferior to Feng Jixing and Qin Lei. It was no wonder that this brat could be ranked second among the wind, rain, thunder, and lightning 4 generals. Furthermore, goddammit, this brat actually used a gourd. What kind of martial spirit was that? In Du Hai's view of the world, plant-type martial spirits were all trash. The strongest plant-type martial spirit was the heavenly dragon vine of the Ouyang branch of the Heaven's Pivot province. But what the hell was this brat's gourd? For a moment, Du Hai's understanding of martial spirits had been subverted. After the subversion, it brought about fury. He suddenly swung the saber in his hand to one side, and the 5 Do Ling once again encircled the blade. He chuckled and said, "General Lin's cultivation is indeed astonishing. Come, please receive this old man's third slash, beheading the chaotic army." The long saber in Du Hai's hand actually started to spin, bringing with it a spiral force. He had already released his hand, and the Do Chi in his palm maintained the connection with the saber. Impressively, this was the legendary, using Chi to control the saber? Lin Muyu was shocked. This move seemed to achieve the same result as her own Dragon Flame spiral break, using the spiral force to penetrate the opponent's defense. However, by using this move, did Du Hai have the intention to kill her? No matter what, she mustn't die. In the next moment, Lin Muyu released her palm. Instantly, a raging flame pulled the Dragon Soul Sword and it started spinning rapidly in the air. It was almost exactly the same as Du Hai's move. The golden gourd glowed brilliantly, providing a large amount of flame energy to Lin Muyu. At the same time, the constellation of all living beings was condensed on the blade. She had to use her true strength. Otherwise, dying under this slash from Du Hai wouldn't be worth it. Dragon Flame Spiral Break plus 3 Luminaries Calamity. The two of them raised their strength to their peak, causing the entire main hall to be illuminated by the flames and the white light from the Do Chi. In fact, the gale generated by the Do Chi blew open the curtains of the main tent. The soldiers outside looked over and were all dumbfounded as they started to discuss among themselves, "Heavens, this is the first time I've seen the great general facing an enemy so seriously. That Lin Muyu brat is really not simple. He actually managed to force the great general to use his chi to control the saber. I think that Lin Muyu is finished. The great general's slash will definitely chop off his head." Not necessarily. That brat's aura doesn't lose to the great general at all. Right at this moment, the saber and sword finally clashed with destructive force, and a resounding boom rang out as powerful battle spirits wreaked havoc before crashing directly into Lin Muyu's suit of battle armor. He spat out a mouthful of blood and retreated with his sword. He crashed heavily into a stone pillar and fell to the ground. He knelt on one knee and looked extremely pathetic. Du Hai, on the other hand, stood majestically at his original position. With a kang sound, the long blade spun rapidly in the air and pierced into the stone floor in front of him. The spiraling force of the two of them surged up into the sky, directly tearing off the roof of the central army hall. Pieces of tiles fell down with a crackling sound, but were all bounced off by Du Hai's Do Chi armor. "Damn it, this stinking brat." Du Hai's face was a little pale. It was true that he had managed to force Lin Muyu back, but he didn't even have the strength to wield his saber. He had challenged Lin Muyu to a battle of a higher cultivation rank than him, but this was the outcome that he had been dealt, so it appeared that he had lost. Slap. Du Hai forcefully swallowed the blood that was welling up in his throat as he grabbed onto his saber with one hand. "General Lin Muyu, are you all right?" Lin Muyu had the recovery ability of the Golden Gourd, and her martial soul was constantly healing her body, so she naturally wasn't too severely injured. She stood up with her sword in her hand and cupped her fist in a salute with a smile. "Thank you for your guidance, great general. I've lost." Lin Muyu's words were very magnanimous, causing Du Hai to feel a little ashamed. However, he couldn't lose face for the great general, so he walked forward and patted Lin Muyu on the shoulder. Smiling, he said, "Among the younger generation, there are less than 3 people who have the same level of cultivation as you, General. Work hard and you will also become a famous general of this generation." Lin Muyu nodded humbly, saying, "Great General, this general has suffered some internal injuries and will return to the barracks to rest and recover." "Good. Men, bring General Lin Muyu back to the barracks to rest." This battle had actually allowed Lin Muyu to gain some goodwill from Du Hai, so it seemed like it was worth it. After a night, in the early hours of the next morning, Lin Muyu's strength had once again reached its peak. Her injuries had completely healed, and after the battle with Du Hai, her strength seemed to have increased by a notch. Perhaps this was how experts were like, only through repeated life and death experiences could they improve. The wind and snow had already stopped, and the 20,000-strong army in the stronghold had already finished their preparations. Of these 20,000 people, there were 5,000 cavalry while the other 15,000 were foot soldiers. Their marching speed wasn't very fast, and based on the speed of 100 li a day, it would probably take more than half a month for them to reach Zhangnan province. This caused Lin Muyu to have a headache. It looked like she would have to split her forces, with the cavalry leading the way and the foot soldiers bringing up the rear. "General, this is the tiger tally, please take good care of it." A deputy general handed the pale gold tiger tally to Lin Muyu. If she wanted to command this 20,000-strong army, she would have to rely on this small tiger tally. Come to think of it, it was really laughable. Lin Muyu nodded, her gaze landing on the army. Just as Wei Chou had said, at least 30% of this group of people were veterans, and 30% were new soldiers. Only the remaining 40% could be considered as true elites, but she couldn't care too much about it. At this moment, a man dressed in a black robe with 2 gold stars on his collar urged his horse over. He looked to be around 30 years of age with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes. Cupping his fists, he said respectfully, "General Lin, this one is Xin Yang, one of the 11 adjunct officers of the Tianchong army, with the rank of Chili Arch. I'm here to await your orders." This person was the adjunct sent by Du Hai. Lin Muyu smiled and cupped his fists, saying, "You've worked hard, Lord Xin. Please enter the ranks." "Thank you, General." Lin Muyu's spirit meridian art fluctuated slightly, and she immediately saw through this Xin Yang's strength. He was only a battle spirit at the second layer of the mortal realm. There wasn't much difference between him and the average person. It seemed like this guy relied on his intelligence to make a living. "General, when do we set off?" Xin Yang asked respectfully. Lin Muyu said, "We set off immediately. 5,000 cavalry with 5 days' worth of rations will go first, followed by 15,000 infantry. What does Lord Xin Yang think?" Xin Yang was startled, saying, "General wants to split the army?" "Yes, otherwise we won't be able to make it to the 60-day deadline." "Very well. Then Lord will lead the cavalry first and this subordinate will lead the infantry. Where should we rendezvous?" "Silver Fir City." "Yes." Silver Fir City was a small city close to the north of Cangnan Province, but it was also the city closest to the Guild of Chivalry's headquarters in Cangnan Province. Choosing Silver Fir City as the resting point for this 20,000-strong army was definitely the right choice. Early in the morning, the sound of iron hooves rang out. 5,000-plus cavalry under the personal command of Lin Muyu swiftly left the Fortress of Seven Seas, heading straight for the southeast. Xin Yang stayed behind to dispatch the infantry out of the city. He raised his head and glanced at the second floor of the central hall. Du Hai was standing there looking at him with eyes like torches. "Don't worry, great general." Xin Yang cupped his fists and smiled, saying, "This subordinate will definitely bring them all back." The corner of Du Hai's mouth rose, "Then I'll have to trouble Lord Adjunct." Chapter 212. 2 days later, the cavalry regiment passed by dragon-seeking forest Dragon Rock Mountain. Looking from afar, the 3 blood-red words Dragon Rock Mountain appeared on the towering stone wall. From afar they could almost see the fluttering flag on Dragon Rock. It was the flag of the Longdan army camp. At the same time, at the foot of Dragon Rock Mountain, the scene of a village appeared. All the houses were newly built and many civilians had moved here. There was even a market in the village center at noon. The accompanying Tianchong army captaincy, Qiying, looked up at Dragon Rock Mountain and asked, "General, it is said that there is a mercenary group called Longdan Army Camp on this mountain range. They are quite powerful. Since we are passing by, should we go up the mountain and borrow some weapons and provisions from this Longdan Army Camp?" He grinned wickedly. Lin Muyu shook her head. "No need. You can camp at the foot of the mountain and rest for a while. I will go up the mountain to discuss with the Longdan Army Camp and invite them to go to Cangnan Province to destroy the House of Chivalry. Otherwise, I'm afraid we may not be able to do it with just our 5,000 cavalry." "What?" Qiying was stunned and hurriedly said, "General, you must not. Although this Longdan army camp is registered in the capital, but the mercenaries are cruel and arrogant. I'm afraid it will be dangerous for you to go up the mountain alone." "Don't worry, it will be fine. Set up camp here and do not disturb the civilians along the way." "Yes. General, please be careful." "Okay." Lin Muyu only led Wei Chou and Xiahou Sang up the mountain. However, she found that the Longdan army camp was getting stronger and stronger. The mercenaries were no longer as unruly as before. Instead, they were in high spirits. Luo Yu and Fengxi's training methods were evident. Not long after, Luo Yu and Fengxi walked out of the meeting hall with radiant faces. They greeted her with a respectful smile. "Madam, you are here." "Yes." Lin Muyu nodded and asked, "How is the development of the Longdan army camp recently?" Luo Yu smiled and said, "Everything is fine. We've cleared out all the wandering mercenary groups and the House of Chivalry's forces within a 500-mile radius, excluding the Flame Dragon mercenary group. We've already expanded our numbers to 5,417 people." More than 5,000. Lin Muyu grinned from ear to ear. How about the war horses and weapons? Luo Yu cupped his fists and said, everyone is equipped with a warhorse and a weapon of varying lengths. These 5,000 people are cavalry when mounted and infantry when dismounted. Don't worry about their battle prowess. That's good. Lin Muyu smiled complacently and said, immediately select 5,000 people, bring 3 days' worth of dry rations, and follow me into Tsangnan province to train the troops. Luo Yu was stunned. Where does Sir want to attack? Purge all the forces of the House of Chivalry in Tsangnan province. So that's how it is. This subordinate will immediately gather the troops. All right. Less than an hour later, 5,000 elite Longdan army camp mercenaries had gathered at the top of the mountain, all mounted on their horses. The scale was unprecedented, and these people's weapons and warhorses were even better than the Tianchong armies. It was good to be rich. Descend the mountain. Raising the flag, the dragon-shaped image fluttered in the air. It was truly a beautiful sight. When they reached the foot of the mountain, Qiying raised his spear and mounted his horse from afar, shouting, the enemy is attacking, prepare to defend. The Tianchong army's heavy cavalry all mounted their horses, holding their spears to the top of their warhorses' heads, each of them brimming with killing intent as they prepared to welcome the attack from the Longdan army camp. But Lin Muyu urged her horse forward, shouting, General Qiying, they're on our side, it's fine. Qiying was surprised, then smiled, General is so brave, you really managed to convince these Longdan army camp mercenaries? Wei Chou came forward, smiling faintly, they're your men to begin with, there's no need to convince them. Alright, let's go to Kathaya City. Yes. Just like that, the 10,000 heavy cavalry left the borders of Lanyan City and headed straight for Tsangnan province. 2 days later, they entered Tsangnan province and could already see the small city of Cathay First City in the distance. 2 messengers galloped over to inform the new city lord. Lin Muyu had mixed feelings. The last time she'd left Kathaya City, she and Chu Yao had fled from Hua Tian and his son's pursuit. She hadn't expected that she'd come to Kathaya City with over 10,000 men, and that she'd even become the general of the south. Not long after, a group of people galloped out of the city, one dressed in the garb of a civil official, the other a military official. This humble one is the governor of Kathaya City, Zhang Yida. Greetings, my lord. This humble one is the commander of Kathaya City's garrison, Wang He. Greetings, general. Both of them wore extremely respectful expressions, and Lin Muyu didn't find it strange at all. The Qin Empire was very strict about the hierarchy of military ranks, and her position as the general of the south was almost godlike in this small city. Zhang Yida's face was full of flattery as he dismounted and kneeled on the ground, smiling. My lord, as the emperor's adopted son, it is this lowly one's greatest honor to have you graced Kathaya City with your presence. If my lord does not mind, please follow this lowly one into the city. This lowly one has already prepared a feast to welcome my lord's arrival. Wang He also cupped his fists. Please enter the city, my lord. Their words and actions were very cordial, but Lin Muyu only felt boundless coldness from them. She smiled slightly. There's no need, the army will not enter the city, and we will not disturb the citizens. We will set up camp in the 7-star forest outside the city. City governor, please immediately prepare food, water, and horse rations for us. I'll be relying on you for this. Zhang Yida was stunned. My lord, you are not entering the city? Yes, I'm not entering the city. Lin Muyu respectfully cupped her fists and smiled. I will have to trouble the governor and General Wang He. Please immediately prepare for us. Yes. Zhang Yida and Wang He were flabbergasted, and they hurriedly led their men away. Lin Muyu watched them leave, indifferently saying, set up camp in the 7-star forest nearby, do not occupy the main road. Prepare to cook and rest well today. We will attack the headquarters of the House of Chivalry tomorrow morning. Qiying cupped his fists respectfully and said, yes, general. At night, the sky was filled with stars and the temperature dropped sharply. It seemed like it was going to snow again. The men Lin Muyu had brought with her this time were all cavalry, and they had to end the battle as quickly as possible. Otherwise, even the fodder for the warhorses would be a huge problem. Kathaya City was just a small city, and it could support 10,000 warhorses for a day or two, but it would be a stretch to say the least for a month. Under the flickering firelight, Wei Chou unfurled a map of Tsangnan province and pointed at the red mark on it, saying, the headquarters of Tsangnan province is located on this mountain ridge called Fire Axe Mountain. Fire Axe Mountain is not tall, but its terrain is extremely steep and shaped like a fire axe, hence the name. According to my intelligence, there are currently more than 4,200 members of the House of Chivalry on Fire Axe Mountain, 1 Grand Wandering Chess Envoy and 2 Wandering Chess Envoys. Cough cough. My lord, you killed one of the Wandering Chess Envoys last time, so these people should hate us very much. Qiying said, the House of Chivalry has many eyes and ears. They will definitely know that we have come to Cathaya City in such a grandiose manner, so we must plan slowly. I think, why don't we wait for Lord Xinyang to arrive with 15,000 foot soldiers and attack together? It's too late. Lin Muyu shook her head. By the time the foot soldiers arrive, it will be too late. Send some people to scout the terrain and gather intelligence tonight, and prevent them from setting up an ambush along the way. Tomorrow morning we will attack the mountain. Yes. After Qiying and the other generals dispersed, Wei Chao's eyes dimmed as he asked, My lord, why are you in such a hurry to attack the mountain? This doesn't seem like your personality. Lin Muyu exhaled a mouthful of mist saying, if we delay, the situation will change. The House of Chivalry and Five Valley City are inextricably linked, so we must finish this battle quickly. Otherwise, if Five Valley City reacts, it will not be so easy for us to destroy the House of Chivalry. Governor Hu Tianning dares to openly defend the House of Chivalry. No, he doesn't dare, but he won't let things go too smoothly for us. Yes, your subordinate understands. The next morning the army of 10,000 set off for Fire Axe Mountain. The mountain was less than 200 li from Cathaya City, and only half a day's journey for cavalry. Lin Muyu's gaze fell on the crowd. The Sky Rush Army's heavy cavalry were equipped with small round shields, long spears and sharp swords, and were skilled in close combat. The heavy cavalry of the Longdan Army camp were equipped with powerful bows. This was an absolute advantage. If they wanted to kill without losing any casualties, they had to be equipped with long-range weapons. The mercenaries of the Longdan Army camp were skilled with bows and horses, and seemed more suited to fighting in the mountains. Along the way, the scouts frequently reported that the terrain had been surveyed, and it was almost impossible for the House of Chivalry to ambush them. They arrived at the foot of Fire Axe Mountain before noon. Looking up, Fire Axe Mountain looked like a fiery red battle axe lying between heaven and earth. The rocks were crimson, and banners fluttered in the air in the middle of the mountain. Houses stood in great numbers, and a stone fortress was built at the mountain gate to defend against any invasion. It was difficult for warhorses to travel in the mountains, much less on a 45-degree slope. Qiying's brows furrowed. General, how do we attack? There is no need to attack. Lin Muyu rode on a warhorse and smiled. I have already received information that although there is sufficient food on the mountain, water is brought up from the spring at the foot of the mountain. Their headquarters has more than 4,000 soldiers, and the daily consumption of water is very large. If we surround them and do not attack, they will definitely descend the mountain to fight us within 3 days. As she said that, Lin Muyu smiled and said with confidence, they chose Fire Axe Mountain as their base, but they forgot about the water source. They are digging their own graves. Qiying was shocked and cupped his fists. I did not expect General to be so powerful at such a young age. No need to flatter me. Lin Muyu raised her hand and said, surround the mountain, and have the archers ready at any time. Wait for them to descend the mountain themselves. Yes, General. Everyone's face was filled with joy. Originally, many of the soldiers thought that forcefully attacking the mountain would result in heavy losses, but now it seemed that with a wise commander like Lin Muyu, there was no need for them to suffer heavy losses. The art of war had said that an army was based on food, but if it was water, it would be the same. Lin Muyu thought that he only had a superficial understanding of the art of war, but compared to the great wandering chess envoy on the mountain, he could be said to have a deep understanding of the art of war. Chapter 213. In the blink of an eye, a day had passed. The people of the House of Chivalry had only managed to shoot a few arrows down the mountain. They could not even hit the feet of the Longdan Army camp mercenaries before they fell to the ground powerlessly. However, this kind of provocation came again and again as if they were very tired. At dusk, there was a sudden commotion on the mountain. The mountain gate opened wide, and about 100 or so rangers roared as they charged down the mountain on their warhorses. Release the arrows. Under Luo Yu's order, the Longdan Army camp and Tianchong Army that were lying in ambush in the forest all fired their arrows. In an instant, the 100 or so people who came down from the mountain screamed and fell to the ground. Only a few managed to escape. Wei Chou led a horse over and pointed at the wooden bucket on the horses but saying, "As my lord expected, the water on the mountain has already dried up. This group of people wants to kill their way out and snatch the water." Lin Muyu nodded. "Yes, keep the archers on guard and dig a trap behind the first line of defense. Wait for their next wave of attack." Qiying was stunned. "General, how can you be so sure that they will come down the mountain a second time to snatch the water?" Lin Muyu smiled confidently. "It's very simple. These 100 or so people are just to test how many people we have surrounding the Fire Axe Mountain. In the next wave of attack they will use at least 2,000 people. Therefore our first line of archers will not be able to defend at all. They will dig a trap to ensure that our losses are minimized." "So that's how it is." Qiying raised her eyebrows and smiled. "General is really meticulous." At this time, a white bird suddenly flew over their heads, the sound of its wings flapping faintly. Lin Muyu suddenly raised her head, her heart moved and she said, "Wei Chou, shoot it down." "Yes." Wei Chou raised his hand and knocked an arrow. With a "so" sound, the demon-devouring bow shot an arrow into the sky and killed the bird in the blink of an eye. A soldier of the Tianchong army picked up the bird's corpse and handed it over. "General." Lin Muyu took the bird corpse and looked at its feet. Sure enough, there was a small letter tube. She took out a piece of paper and saw a few simple words written on it. "Reinforcements will arrive in 2 days." Wei Chou frowned. "Sir, will the House of Chivalry send reinforcements? Could it be the people from their branch altar?" "I don't know." Lin Muyu felt a burst of anger and said, "Wei Chou, this messenger bird is coming from the direction of Five Valleys City. Arrange for the sharpshooters in the camp to watch this direction day and night. Shoot down any messenger bird that flies by." Wei Chou smiled and nodded. "Understood." In the blink of an eye it was night. The sky was filled with dark clouds and the moon and stars were dim. Even Qiying could feel the biting cold murderous intent. "This night will not be easy." Lin Muyu warmed himself by the bonfire and smiled. "Let everyone be more spirited." "Yes." In the early hours of the morning, a loud noise came from the mountain. The sound of horse hooves was loud. The House of Chivalry was attacking again. The moment the mountain gate opened, countless rangers with wooden shields and long swords rushed in. Their faces were full of anger as they shouted, "Kill! Kill these dogs of the Empire!" There were about 1,500 rangers on foot, and behind them were about 500 cavalrymen. It seemed like they wanted to use the wooden shields to wear down the arrows, and then the cavalrymen would charge. Lin Muyu stood under a towering tree, a thin layer of frost on his shoulders. He sneered. "In your dreams?" Qiying mounted his horse and smiled. "General, it's our turn to charge now, right?" "Yes, we will fight when they break through the second blockade." "Yes." The torches on the Fire Axe Mountain were connected, and a large number of rangers charged out. Their battle cries shook the heavens, and their momentum was terrifying. "Fire!" Wei Chou shouted again. The longbow in his hand quickly shot out an arrow made of light. With a whoosh, it pierced through the bodies of 3 rangers. In the entire army, perhaps only Wei Chou had such arm strength and accuracy. Squeak, squeak. The bow in Lin Muyu's hand let out a cry of pain. Suddenly an arrow was shot out. The arrowhead was imbued with pure Do Qi, and it directly pierced through a ranger's wooden shield. The explosive power of the arrow was shocking. "General is brave." The group of Tianchong soldiers were also very encouraged. Arrows rained down, and in the blink of an eye, the people from the House of Chivalry were killed. However, most of the arrows landed on the wooden shields and did not cause any damage. In the blink of an eye, the people from the House of Chivalry were within 20 meters of them. "Retreat," Lin Muyu ordered. At the same time, she raised her hand and threw out 4 little magic sonar blades. They flew in 4 different directions and became invisible. After piercing through the bodies of several rangers, Lin Muyu slowly retracted her strength. Suddenly, the little magic sonar blades rotated rapidly in the air to form a magic sonar blade. With a schwa-schwa sound, it killed another dozen people in the crowd before flying back. Under the light of the torches, a ranger surrounded by pure Zhen Qi shouted, "Kill! Kill these dogs of the Empire!" The sound of hooves could be heard. The cavalry of the House of Chivalry had also arrived. They brandished their spears and charged forward. However, when they reached the second blockade, they successively charged into the trap. Screams of pain rang out as hundreds of people and horses fell into the trap that had been dug beforehand. The Tianchong soldiers and Longdan army camp soldiers naturally rushed forward and stabbed with their spears. Blood splattered everywhere. They had truly killed everyone. Swoosh. Lin Muyu took out the pear blossom spear from her Qingkuan pouch. With a shake of the spear shaft, the spearhead instantly produced a pear blossom that was enshrouded in icy mist in the night sky. Lin Muyu shouted in a low voice, "Kill!" The sound of hooves could be heard. They had avoided the trap area. Under his leadership, more than 1,000 cavalrymen from Longdan army camp charged forward. Before they even got close, they had already launched a round of spear-piercing attacks. The destructive power of the spear was far greater than that of the arrows. The enemies were immediately scared out of their wits. When it came to close combat, the enemies were already scared out of their wits and became the targets of the cavalrymen. The air was filled with the thick smell of blood. This battle lasted for more than an hour before it ended. The final result was that the House of Chivalry had lost another game envoy. Only about 200 of the defeated soldiers managed to escape up the mountain. The mountain path was littered with corpses. It was a tragic sight. Wei Chao's face was filled with excitement. He smiled and said, "This time we will teach these traitors a lesson." Qi Ying wiped the blood off her spear and said proudly, "I'm afraid they won't dare to go down the mountain to fetch water anymore." "How many men did we lose?" Lin Muyu asked as he rode past with his pear blossom spear in hand. Luo Yu cupped his fists and said, "The Longdan army camp lost close to 20 men, and the Tianchong army lost close to 100 men. It's all thanks to Sir's divine foresight. Otherwise we would have lost even more men." Got it, Lin Muyu frowned. Actually, he had planned to have 0 casualties. Unfortunately, there were too many factors that could have led to the development of the situation. "Alright, let's all rest. They won't make any moves tonight." "Yes, General." That night Lin Muyu slept very soundly. Lying in the tent, Lin Muyu allowed the forging dragon bone remnants Do Qi to circulate around his body. His spirit pulse art also extended on its own, as if it had a spirit of its own, permeating into everything in the world. At this moment heaven, earth, and man formed a kind of harmony, giving him a feeling of comfort throughout his entire body in his sleep. "Sir, bad news." Wei Chao's voice suddenly came from outside. Lin Muyu got up, grabbed his sword and walked out of the tent. "What's wrong?" Wei Chao's expression was solemn as he said, "This morning a group of Imperial troops from the Cloud Commandery appeared around the Fire Axe Mountain and surrounded us from the outside. I don't know why." "Have you negotiated with them?" "Not yet." "Follow me." "Yes." Getting on his horse, he led a group of royal guards to the periphery. When Lin Muyu arrived, he could already see a group of people wearing imperial armor guarding the periphery, facing off against the Longdan army camp and Tianchong army inside. "What's going on?" Lin Muyu walked forward and raised his eyebrows. "Who is your person in charge?" The shield slowly moved away, and a man dressed in an official's attire rode out. He cupped his fists. "I am the governor of the Cloud Commandery, Bai Luo. Greetings, Madame Lin Muyu." "Bai Luo, why are you surrounding this place with the soldiers of the Cloud Commandery?" Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and asked. Bai Luo smiled. "Madam, this Fire Axe Mountain is originally under the jurisdiction of the Cloud Commandery. Today, a group of mercenaries from the Dragon Rocky Mountain suddenly appeared. As the local governor, I naturally have to bring my troops here to investigate." Lin Muyu took out the token. "The token of the Zhenan general is here. Now that you have seen it, withdraw your troops." "No, madam." "No. What do you mean?" Bai Luo's face was still full of smiles. He bowed and said, "The Cloud Commandery is under the jurisdiction of the Five Valleys City. If there is a battle in my territory, I am afraid that the civilians will be implicated. So, before the troops from the Five Valleys City arrive, I must not withdraw my troops. Otherwise, if the governor blames me, I, as small governor of the Cloud Commandery, cannot bear the consequences." Lin Muyu was so angry that she gritted her teeth. Wei Chou said in a low voice, "This old fox. Usually when mercenaries fight to the death he does not do anything. Now he dares to surround us. How dare he?" Lin Muyu rode her horse forward slowly. Looking at Bai Luo's old face, she smiled. "Governor, the way you surround us makes me suspect that you are in cahoots with the House of Chivalry. If that is the case, once I report this to His Majesty, I am afraid you will not be able to be the governor anymore." Bai Luo shuddered. "Sir, I'm just following the rules, please don't make things difficult for me. If it's really as you said, please take out the Imperial Emperor's edict, I won't dare to disobey and retreat immediately." Lin Muyu was stunned. She could not help but curse in her heart. This old fox must have known that the Imperial edict was in Du Hai's hands. That was why he was making things difficult for her. If you want to surround us, then surround us. Lin Muyu abruptly pulled out his long sword and swept it across the ground. His douqi raged and dust flew into the air. Immediately, a deep pit appeared in front of him. He looked coldly at the group of Yunzhong commandery soldiers in front of him and coldly ordered, "Anyone who dares to cross this line, kill them on the spot. Don't hold back." He looked deeply at Bai Luo and sneered, "I know what you are thinking. Just you wait, I will let you get what you want." Bai Luo was stunned. Unease appeared on his face. Chapter 214. "My lord, are we just going to let these soldiers from Cloud Middle Commandery surround us?" Wei Chou followed Lin Muyu into the central tent, his face full of anger. "We've surrounded Fire Axe Mountain without attacking, but now we've been surrounded as well. The food and water from Kathaya City can't be sent in at all, and we've fallen into a quagmire just like the House of Chivalry on Fire Axe Mountain. We must make a decision, my lord." Lin Muyu abruptly turned around, her eyes full of killing intent. "Wei Chou, think about it, why would Bai Lao and the others protect the House of Chivalry like this?" "This?" Wei Chou was startled, then asked carefully, "My lord, are you suspecting that Governor Hu Tianning of Cangnan Province is in cahoots with the House of Chivalry?" "Not necessarily, but there's definitely a relationship of interest." Lin Muyu raised her head and sighed. If there wasn't a huge relationship of interest, Hu Tianning wouldn't need to mobilize such a large force, even at the expense of shedding all pretense of cordiality with the Imperial Army. This can only mean that he wants to protect Fire Axe Mountain, and that the House of Chivalry is hiding some secrets that he wants us to know. Wei Chou suddenly understood. "My lord, if that's the case, then we must take action." Lin Muyu nodded, asking, "How much rations do we have left?" 2 days at most. We're running out of water. Dig a dozen wells here. We're low and there are green mountains all around us except for Fire Axe Mountain. It won't be hard to dig out water. Yes. And, what else, my lord? Wei Chou turned to look at him. Find me a set of clothes for the House of Chivalry. I'm going to explore Fire Axe Mountain tonight and see what secrets this mountain is hiding that made Hu Tianning go to such lengths. My lord, you're risking your life alone, I'm afraid. No need to persuade me, I've made up my mind. Yes, my lord. Late at night, the cold wind howled on Fire Axe Mountain. Rustle, rustle. With a series of rustling sounds, gourd vines began to seep out from the rock stratum, and Lin Muyu grabbed onto a gourd vine tightly, using the characteristics of her martial spirit to climb up the northern cliff of the Fire Axe Mountain. This cliff was not just any ordinary steep cliff, it was a natural barrier that was completely vertical, so the Fire Axe Mountain's rangers would not necessarily guard this place. After all, normal people would not be able to climb up from here. The night was freezing. Lin Muyu's eyebrows were covered with frost, but his eyes were smiling. He was dressed like a rogue hero, and the badge he wore was also green. He was hanging a few hundred meters in the air, climbing up step by step with the help of the gourd vine. Fortunately, the gourd vine was born from his heart, and it was completely compatible with his body. Therefore he did not have to worry about the thorns on the gourd vine hurting him. Even when Lin Muyu's palm grabbed the gourd vine, the surrounding thorns quickly dissipated into nothingness. It was a very mystical sight. Shwa! With a light leap, Lin Muyu landed on top of a fiery red rock. The dragon spirit sword was wrapped in black cloth and carried on his back. Lin Muyu was very familiar with the House of Chivalry, so he had nothing to fear. He strode over. Not far away, a dozen or so rangers were guarding the outer perimeter of North Mountain. Who is it? One of the rangers hurriedly raised his longbow. Lin Muyu hurriedly raised his hand and said with a smile, "Don't draw your bow, brother. I have a stomachache, but I'm too embarrassed to solve it up there. So I settled it at the edge of the cliff. We're family. Under the moonlight, the ranger saw his attire and couldn't help but laugh. Damn, you scared me. Kid, you look unfamiliar. Are you new? Yes, I've been here for less than a month. No wonder you look unfamiliar. Which team are you from? This question made Lin Muyu stunned. Fortunately, he was more alert and said with a smile, I was brought up the mountain by Lord Iron Supreme Luoshan. Now I'm following him as his personal guard. There were at least 100 Iron Supreme Luoshan on this mountain. Moreover, there were frequent changes in personnel. These rangers might not know each other, so this lie was very appropriate. Oh, so you're the brother that Lord Iron Supreme brought up the mountain. Come, do you want to drink some wine to warm your body? Thank you, brothers, but I have to go back immediately. Lord Iron Supreme was injured when he went down the mountain to attack today. I have to take care of him. Okay brother, you've worked hard. After successfully passing through the mountain, Lin Muyu walked along the mountain forest. However, he saw that the rangers along the way were all listless like a withered eggplant. It seemed that the two big blows of the water supply and the failure of the attack had almost caused their morale to drop. It was a pity that Hu Tianning had made a new move. Otherwise, the Longdan army camp would definitely be able to conquer this Fire Axe Mountain within 3 days with minimal losses. At this moment, a group of wandering warriors holding torches suddenly appeared in front of them. They were escorting about 20 people who looked like peasants through the corridor and went straight to the other side of the cliff. One of them raised his whip and scolded in an arrogant manner, "Move faster, mother cur. If you miss today's work, I'll skin you alive." These civilian workers were all carrying shovels on their shoulders. They looked sallow and emaciated. Lin Muyu couldn't help but frown. Without thinking too much, he quietly followed them and became one of the rangers. Together they escorted the civilian workers. It was the middle of the night and they still had to continue working. There must be some kind of secret that they couldn't see. Sure enough, after circling around a small mountain peak, the area in front of them was brightly lit. About 100+ rogue warriors were standing guard in front of a cave, and this cave extended all the way into the depths of Fire Axe Mountain. Faint ding-ding-dang-dang sounds could be heard coming from inside, and Lin Muyu immediately concluded that this was a gold mine. The Fire Axe Mountain was actually a huge gold mine. This was too sensational. Go down. After pushing the civilian workers into the mine, Lin Muyu also followed a group of rangers down. The entire mine was filled with torches and rangers acting as guards. The entire Fire Axe Mountain seemed to have been emptied. The walls of the mine were densely packed with miners. They were using hammers, shovels, and other tools to strike the ores in the mountain. Under the light of the torches, some of the ores had a faint golden hue. Although it wasn't pure, it was definitely a gold mine. Lin Muyu couldn't help but take a deep breath. At this time, a bearded ranger looked at him and asked with a smile, "Little brother, you look unfamiliar. Are you new here?" "That's right. How should I address this big brother?" "Just call me Denyo." "Ah, big brother Denyo, you're also in charge of guarding the mine today." "That's right." Denyo nodded. His eyes were filled with greed as he looked at the carts of gold and said, "If all of this gold is turned into Jianghu coins, each of us can marry 7 or 8 wives." Lin Muyu's heart sank. She smiled and said, "Big brother Denyo, do you know that these gold mines are used to make coins?" "Of course." Denyo waved his arm and smiled. "Otherwise, why do you think that old fox Hu Tianning sent reinforcements to us when the Fire Axe Mountain was surrounded?" Lin Muyu was relieved and said, "I'm new here, so I don't really understand these rules. Could it be that Hu Tianning wants these gold mines to make coins for himself?" "That's right. What else do you think?" Denyo excitedly said, "Since ancient times, birds die for wealth and birds die for food. But as far as I know, there is a law in the empire that prohibits officials from making coins for themselves." Lin Muyu said hypocritically. Denyo rubbed his nose and said, "Do you think that old fox Hu Tianning is a vegetarian? This Fire Axe Mountain has been mined for almost a year. Just the amount of Jianghu coins that have been made is more than 10 million. Hu Tianning is overflowing with wealth right now. Otherwise, he wouldn't be able to buy maids, warhorses, and weapons in such a large amount." "He even dares to buy warhorses and weapons?" Lin Muyu smiled in astonishment. "This Hu Tianning is really bold." Denyo smiled and said, "Of course. The armies in Sangnan province add up to about 120,000 people. Among them, the most elite is the Flying Mount camp led by General Long Qianlin under Hu Tianning. It is said that the warhorses of this Flying Mount camp are all fine horses from the western regions. Their weapons are also made by famous craftsmen. All of them are made of black iron." Looking at the entire empire, which army can be mentioned in the same breath as them? Lin Muyu secretly smiled. Perhaps even her Longdan army camp could contend against them? However, this Hu Tianning was indeed bold. He actually dared to collude with the House of Chivalry to mine gold on Fire Axe Mountain. How bold. Lin Muyu deeply sighed and said, "I wonder how many Jianghu coins we can get. Nowadays, marrying a wife in the countryside costs a lot of money." Denyo smiled, "Don't worry. Alright, what is your name?" "Linji." Denyo immediately patted Lin Muyu's shoulder and smiled. Little brother Lin Ji, the great travel envoy, has already promised us that after we finish mining the gold on Fire Axe Mountain, we will move to another nest. Each brother will receive at least 1,000 Jianghu coins. Nowadays the girls in the countryside are quite cheap. You can marry one for only 100 Jianghu coins. You are so young and strong, marrying a wife from 5 households is not a problem, haha. Lin Muyu smiled shyly. Brother Denyo must be joking. I am still inexperienced. Denyo. At this time an excited voice suddenly came from the depths of the mine. We found it? We found it? What did you find? Lin Muyu was startled. The voice in the depths of the mine immediately responded with a loud laugh. Sir Jin Zun, we have found a white diamond. Quickly go and tell the great travel envoy that we have finally found a white diamond. Lin Muyu was startled. He immediately went down the rope with a group of wandering warriors. With the help of the light, he saw a group of miners gathered there. At the bottom of the mine, after the hard rocks were cut open, long crystals that looked like ice crystals appeared in front of him. This was the legendary white diamond? What was the difference between a white diamond and a diamond? The people of this world did not worship diamonds, but they seemed to worship white diamonds. What was the use of these glowing white crystals? Chapter 215. What's the use of white diamonds? Lin Muyu asked in surprise. Denyo squinted his eyes and said, You don't know? White diamonds are very rare, but they're the favorite ornaments of noble ladies. It's said that these white diamonds can emit light, so many noble ladies like to use them to decorate their rooms. Usually, a lady with a white diamond is enough to make her best friend envious. Looking at the bundles of white diamonds in the rock stratum, Lin Muyu furrowed her brows. This was another huge fortune, but it seemed like it was not fated to be with her. It was about to become Hu Tianing's. Taking a deep breath, Lin Muyu tried to touch these white diamonds with her spiritual sense, but she didn't expect that there was spiritual energy in the white diamonds that reflected her spiritual sense. Heavens, these white diamonds actually contain such rich spiritual energy? She carefully analyzed the structure of the white diamonds with her spiritual sense and found that although they were called diamonds, they were actually more like metals. However, they were a type of metal with unknown characteristics. At least, they weren't in the periodic table of elements. The crystal form of white diamonds was made up of tiny particles, and the structure of each particle was similar to the molecular structure of a diamond. One could imagine how hard it was. It said that white diamonds have another use. At this time, another venerable who was about 60 years old said while stroking his beard. Oh, what use? Lin Muyu and Denyo asked together. The old venerable smiled and said, I heard from our ancestors that this kind of white diamond is extremely sharp, and it has a natural ability to destroy battle chi. So, in ancient times, there were divine blacksmiths who used white diamonds to make weapons. These weapons can easily break through the defense of battle chi armor. In other words, a heavenly king's defense can't even withstand a single blow from a white diamond weapon. Denyo immediately raised his eyebrows and said, Bulsh *T. There are many white diamonds in the empire now, but why isn't there a weapon made from white diamonds? Because there hasn't been a divine blacksmith of that level in the future. The venerable smiled disdainfully. You kids won't understand even if I tell you, hey, white diamonds can break battle armor? These words were like a bolt from the blue to Lin Muyu. How many powerful beings at the Heavenly King stage and above had relied on the toughness of their suits of battle armor to dominate an entire army? However, if he could really smelt the white diamond and use it as a weapon, that would be the bane of all Heavenly King stage powerhouses. Furthermore, Lin Muyu could already imagine that scene in her heart. With the white diamond as the arrowhead, wouldn't it be able to instantly kill any Heavenly King stage powerhouse? If that was really the case, perhaps Zhen Yifan, Xiangyu, and the others wouldn't be as scary as they had imagined. After all, not everyone could withstand the simultaneous release of 10,000 arrows. In an instant, Lin Muyu made up her mind. She couldn't leave any of these white diamonds to Hu Tianning. Otherwise it would be a disaster. Ouch! He suddenly bent his body. Denyo hurriedly asked, Little brother Lin Ji, what's wrong? I suddenly have a stomachache. I'll go up first. Okay, be careful. Thank you, brother Denyo. This Denyo was very straightforward and honest. He was very likable. After flying out of the mine, Lin Muyu once again arrived at the North Mountain. Using the excuse of having a stomachache, she went down the mountain and headed straight for the main tent of the Longdan army camp. It was already past midnight. Gather all the generals above the rank of Chili Arch, he said in a low voice. Wei Chou immediately cupped his fists. Yes, sir. A few minutes later, more than 10 generals with sleepy eyes came to the main tent. All of their faces were full of surprise. General, for you to summon us in the middle of the night, could it be that the troops from the Cloud Commandery are attacking? Not really. Lin Muyu shook her head. Prepare to gather the troops. We will attack the mountain during the night. We must occupy the entire Fire Axe Mountain before dawn. The Tianchong army will be responsible for bringing up the rear. I will personally lead the Longdan army camp to attack the mountain. We will strive to take it down in one strike. Yes, sir. Luo Yu and Fengshi cupped their fists together. The Longdan army camp awaits your orders at any time. Torches were quickly raised, and every mercenary in the Longdan army camp had a few water bags hanging on their waists. It might not be easy to go down the mountain after going up the mountain. They had to make early preparations to avoid the same fate as the House of Chivalry on the Fire Axe Mountain. In the middle of the night, Lin Muyu led more than 1,000 heavy cavalry of the Longdan army camp to the mountain gate. From afar, Wei Chou killed the Silver Elder guarding the gate with a single arrow. Be careful, the Empire's lackeys are attacking at night. A warning came from the stone fortress. There was no time to waste. Lin Muyu quickly activated his martial spirit. The golden gourd wrapped him and his warhorse within it. He charged towards the mountain gate and raised his right fist. The space seemed to distort because of it. He mustered all his strength and expended nearly 40% of his Do Chi to unleash a Four Luminaries Demon Cry. The Four Luminaries Demon Cry was an area of effect attack. The power of the demon god bombarded the gate like a cannonball. Instantly the iron gate was torn into pieces. Even the entire stone city wall was turned into dust. The rangers on the city wall howled in pain. Looking at the countless soldiers of the Longdan army camp climbing up the mountain, none of them dared to resist. They were scared out of their wits and shouted, "Oh my God, are they still human? Sir, spare us, we are willing to join the Empire's army." They quickly broke through the mountain gate. Just as Lin Muyu had expected, there were more than 2,000 rangers on the mountain. However, at least half of them were supervising the work in the mines. Therefore, there were very few people that could be sent out to defend the mountain. The people from the House of Chivalry probably thought that Lin Muyu would not dare to attack the mountain with the arrival of the troops from Yunzhong Commandery. However, they were wrong. It was because the temptation of the White Diamond was too great for Lin Muyu to resist. The Longdan army camp swept through and quickly killed their way up the mountain. With just over 1,000 heavy cavalry, they were unimpeded. In fact, it was mainly due to the 60 royal guards at the front of the formation. The strength of the royal guards was known to the world. With these 60 powerhouses attacking the mountain, it was a miracle that the House of Chivalry could withstand them. Be careful, their great Yuchess envoy is here. Xiahou Sang raised his spear and rushed over from afar. He laughed and said, "Leave this great Yuchess envoy to me." The great Yuchess envoy was already a white-haired old man. The result was beyond Xiahou Sang's expectations. With a sweep of his battle energy, Xiahou Sang and his horse were pushed back. He was not a match for the great Yuchess envoy at all. Lin Muyu narrowed her eyes. This great Yuchess envoy was wearing battle armor. He was a heavenly king powerhouse, but his aura might not be stronger than hers. More importantly, the great Yuchess envoy's weapon was only a spirit-grade long saber. With me Guanlongxing here, who dares to be presumptuous? The great Yuchess envoy held his saber in front of him, his face full of arrogance. The group of rangers behind him were encouraged, and all of them had smiles on their faces. Lord Great Yuchess envoy is indeed invincible. Brothers, we will definitely win. Pa! Lin Muyu suddenly leaped from her horse, her battle energy rising rapidly. Holding the dragon spirit sword with both hands, she quickly descended from the sky. The blade was surrounded by the two luminaries' demonic dance's Shen energy. She shouted, "I don't care if you are a great Yuchess envoy or not. Eat my sword." Lin Muyu. The great Yuchess envoy's eyes turned cold. He hurriedly raised his long saber to block Lin Muyu's mighty sword. Clang. Sparks flew, and a small piece of steel broke off from the handle of the long saber. It was obvious that the hardness of the saber was far inferior to the dragon spirit sword, but this great Yuchess man was not to be trifled with. The long saber suddenly slashed down. Wong. The golden wall of the gourd opened, and Lin Muyu forcefully blocked the opponent's saber. His blood energy was in turmoil. Damn, Those who could step into the Heavenly King stage were not easy to deal with. They had to rely on their own strengths. Using the rebound force, he retreated, but his battle boots quickly stepped on the ground and he launched another attack. This time he focused the Xian energy of the three luminaries' calamity on the longsword, and activated the true dragon essence fire to surround the blade to increase its destructive power. Guan Longxing hurriedly turned around and left, his long saber dragging along the ground, leaving a trail of sparks. Stalling? Lin Muyu was stunned. Was this Guan Longxing the incarnation of Marshal Saint Guan? However, while he was in the air, he threw his long sword out without thinking. The stalling tactic was to pretend to retreat and let the opponent chase him, then turn around and kill him with a slash. However, this tactic was useless against the sword control technique. The dragon spirit sword cut through the air, flames surrounding the sword hilt all the way to Lin Muyu's palm. Guan Longxing heard a sharp whistle behind him, and hurriedly turned around and raised his saber to block again. Clang. This time the sound was even more crisp, and the long saber was directly cut in half. Guan Longxing was stunned, but his face was full of anger. He held the saber hilt in one hand and the broken saber head in the other, and rushed toward Lin Muyu. Before Lin Muyu could land on the ground, he swept his saber horizontally. The long saber slammed into the wall of the gourd, and she rolled away in a sorry state. Guan Longxing didn't let her go and he beat her up with both hands. Lin Muyu had never suffered like this before, and it was in front of so many mercenaries in the Longdan army camp. Her battle boots suddenly pierced into the ground, and after stabilizing her body, the dragon spirit sword appeared in her hand again, and she slashed out like lightning. Pung! The sword struck Guan Longxing's shoulder like lightning, but he still had his battle armor on. He grabbed the blade of the dragon spirit sword, and his face was full of arrogance. He stabbed the long saber horizontally into Lin Muyu's chest. Lin Muyu's reaction was even faster. She turned around and used her battle armor to deflect the fatal strike. Her left hand quickly spun, and flames surged as she controlled the dragon spirit sword to spin rapidly. Ah! Guan Longxing's sword hand was quickly crushed into pieces. Even a saber couldn't block the dragon spirit sword, let alone a body of flesh and blood. Lin Muyu was extremely fast. She directly grabbed the chainmail on Guan Longxing's neck with one hand, and her right hand grabbed the hilt of the sword and pressed it against his chest. Fresh blood spurted out. Guan Longxing, a master of his generation, a legendary figure of the Guild of Chivalry's headquarters in Sangnan Province, ended his tragic life just like that. Chapter 216. With Guan Longxing's death, the few remaining golden venerables and silver venerables from the House of Chivalry lost their courage to continue fighting. One by one they knelt on the ground and wailed, "The great wanderer, you died a terrible death. What are you crying for?" Xiahou Sang crawled up from the mud and said with his spear in hand, "Put down your weapons and I will spare your lives. Otherwise I will kill all of you." "We are willing to surrender." The group of people put down their weapons. It was good that there was no massacre. "My lord, what should we do now?" Qiying cupped his fists and said, "I feel that since Fire Axe Mountain has been conquered and these rangers are willing to surrender, our mission is complete. Why don't we go down the mountain immediately?" Lin Muyu nodded. "General Qiying will lead 5,000 heavy cavalry from the Tianchong army down the mountain to set up camp. Wait for me." "Yes." Qiying mounted his horse and left. Wei Chou asked, "My lord, what else do we need to do?" "Bring the men and follow me." "Yes." In the Fire Axe Mountain mine, the clanking sounds were still lingering. When more than 1,000 Longdan army camp mercenaries appeared in the mine, the rangers did not have the courage to fight at all. They all put down their weapons and expressed their willingness to surrender. Most of these people only joined the House of Chivalry to seek a better future. Apart from some of them who had bad records, the rest could be incorporated into the Longdan army camp mercenaries. Lin Muyu was wearing the Holy Temple's battle robe. When she stepped into the mine with Wei Chou, Xiahou Sang, and the other royal guards, Daniel recognized her from afar. His eyes widened. Aren't you little brother Lin Ji?" Wei Chou said in a low voice, "Don't be rude. This is Lin Muyu from the Eagle's Nest camp of the royal guards. She is also the new general of the south." Daniel's face was filled with fear as he quickly knelt down and said, "This lowly one greets sir. This lowly one didn't know sir was." I know I was wrong sir, please don't kill me." Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh. She went forward to hold Daniel's arms and said with a smile, Brother Dinyo, my real name is indeed Lin Ji. You don't have to be afraid, the Imperial Army isn't like the dogs of the Empire that you guys claim to be. Don't worry, if you're willing to surrender then join us. If not, then take your Jinyin coins and go home. With me here, no one will dare to touch a single hair on your head. Dinyo stood there in shock while Wei Cho snickered, this big blockhead is really stupid. Xiahou Sang looked around and said, heavens, so there's a gold mine here. These damn rangers are secretly mining here instead of reporting to the Ministry of Works. Humans die in pursuit of wealth just as birds die in pursuit of food. It's normal, Lin Muyu said. Luo Yu on the other hand was quite courageous. She squinted her eyes and said with a smile, I'm afraid the truth is more than that. From Hu Tianing's behavior, this gold mine is most likely his. At least he won't be able to clean up this mess no matter what. However, Lin Muyu suddenly turned around and said with a serious expression, listen up, all of you. This gold mine was mined by Guan Longxing of the House of Chivalry in Sangnan Province. It has nothing to do with Sir Hu Tianing of Five Valley City. If anyone dares to slander Governor Hu Tianing, I, Lin Muyu, promise to cut off his head with my sword. Luo Yu, Wei Cho and the others were shocked. Sir. This, however, Fengshi smiled and cupped his fists. Sir is wise. At this time, everyone had already reached the bottom of the mine. However, in less than 2 hours, clusters of white diamond crystals had already appeared in their field of vision. These are white diamonds? Wei Cho, who was experienced and knowledgeable, asked. Lin Muyu nodded and said, Luo Yu, Fengshi, let our brothers in the Longdan army camp come down and quickly mine these white diamonds. Then load them up and send them back to Dragon Rocky Mountain. Luo Yu smiled. Yes, sir. Lin Muyu walked forward and used the dragon spirit sword to dig with all her might. She found that there were actually only so many white diamonds in front of her. If she dug any further, there would be gold mines. Wei Cho saw through Lin Muyu's thoughts and said with a smile, Sir, white diamonds only grow in rich spiritual energy layers, so there are only so many here. Moreover, it's already very fortunate that we can dig so many. The reserves of white diamonds here are equivalent to about half of the Empire's total reserves, right? Lin Muyu nodded. Yes, this is enough. Hurry up and mine. Xiahou Sang was puzzled. Sir, then, what about the gold mines? Privately mining gold mines is a capital offense. Lin Muyu smiled at him and said, Xiahou Sang, do you want to violate the Empire's laws? This. Xiahou Sang smiled. Sir is too smart. Lin Muyu didn't go anywhere. She just sat in the mine and watched Luo Yu, Wei Cho and the others mine the white diamonds. She put the white diamonds that were submitted into her Qingquan bag one by one. However, the Qingquan bag was quickly filled to the brim. There were at most 700 to 800 white diamonds. The remaining hundreds of white diamonds were given to the soldiers in the Longdan army camp to carry. At this moment, a tiger-level commander from the Longdan army camp dashed into the mine and cupped his fists. Commander, a group of people who claim to be from the Flying Mount camp have arrived at the foot of the mountain. They said that if we don't go out, they will immediately attack the mountain. General Qi Ying of the Tianchong army camp seems to be unable to restrain his anger and wants to fight. Sir, quickly go and take a look. Oh? Lin Muyu's gaze turned cold. Is Long Qianlin finally here? Long Qianlin is known as the #1 general in the Sangnan province. We are outnumbered and can't fight him. Sir. Luo Yu advised. I know. Lin Muyu frowned and said, don't stop mining here. The few of you follow me out. Yes. After exiting the mine, she mounted her horse and led the 3,000+ cavalrymen from the Longdan army camp down the mountain. At this time it was already daybreak. The first rays of the morning sun shone on the Fire Axe Mountain, reflecting a patch of red. However, the foot of the mountain also seemed to be covered in a patch of red. No, it should be called blood red. A battle had already broken out at the mountain gate. Corpses were lying there and blood had dyed the ground red. Qi Ying's armor was stained with blood. He held his spear and urged his horse forward in a somewhat sorry state. He said, Sir, I fell into Long Qianlin's trap. I was forced to retreat by their spear formation on the mountainside. You? Lin Muyu suppressed her anger and calmly said, Victory and defeat are common. Follow me to take a look. Yes, sir. There were close to 500 corpses lying on the hillside. At least 400 of them belonged to the Tianchong army. The number of corpses from the Flying Mount camp was pitifully small. The fortress had just been repaired and both sides were in a standoff. Lin Muyu saw this and raised her eyebrows. She said, Wei Chou, bring our master archers to the fortress. When the flying mount camp comes over later, aim at their eyes and necks and shoot. Yes sir, watch carefully. Lin Muyu continued. Luo Yu, lead the stronger brothers from the Longdan army camp to the fortress and carry the rounder stones. If the flying mount camp attacks the mountain forcefully, throw these stones down. Yes sir. Fengxi, lead 200 men to dismount and form a shield formation to block their arrows. Yes. After the assignment was completed, Lin Muyu carried the dragon spirit sword and ascended the small mountain gate. Looking from afar, the fire axe mountain was really surrounded. There were at least 30,000 men and horses at the foot of the mountain, including the elite flying mount camp. Moreover, Long Qianlin, the #1 general of Cangnan province, was personally overseeing this conflict. No matter how one looked at it, it didn't look like they could win. Looking into the distance, Lin Muyu channeled her qi into her voice and said in a clear voice, Sir Long Qianlin, I didn't expect that we would meet in this way after we parted at Wugu City. From the cavalry formation, a man dressed in black armor walked out with a spear in his hand and said with a smile, Sir Lin Muyu, I Long Qianlin, also didn't expect that we would meet like this. However, sir, you led your troops into the territory of Cangnan province without permission and ordered your subordinates to kill over 100 soldiers from Yunzhong commandery. Your actions are equivalent to treason, so I had no choice but to surround this fire axe mountain. Lin Muyu couldn't help but laugh and said, General Long Qianlin didn't even frown when he lied. You really have the demeanor of a famous general. Why did I come up the mountain and why did you come here? Don't tell me that General Long Qianlin doesn't know? Long Qianlin sneered, Sir Lin Muyu, you are one of the 4 heroes of Lan and Yen appointed by His Majesty. Everyone knows that you are now the honorable general of the South. Everyone thinks that you will be a famous general in the future. I Long Qianlin have the honor to experience the abilities of a famous general like you today. Do you dare to fight? Come. Lin Muyu said lightly. Clang. Long Qianlin unsheathed his sword and shouted, Attack the mountain. The Flying Mount Battalion mobilized 1,000 men to attack the mountain. Their formation was neat and orderly. After entering the firing range, they immediately raised their shields to protect themselves and their companions. They moved forward as a whole without the slightest bit of disorder, as if they were an iron shield. Lin Muyu couldn't help but secretly exclaim in admiration. This Long Qianlin was indeed very capable. As a famous general in the era of cold weapons, everyone had their own skill. Long Qianlin's reputation was definitely earned through fighting and not through bragging. Release the arrows. Under Wei Chao's command, the stone fortress released tens of thousands of arrows in unison. Moreover, there was no lack of sharpshooters among the Imperial Guards and the Longdan army camp. While the arrows landed on the shields, there was no lack of arrows that hit the eyes and necks of the soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion. Immediately, blood-curdling screams rang out. In the blink of an eye, dozens of people were shot and killed. The entire shield formation seemed to have been affected. Long Qianlin spurred his horse to the rear of the cavalry formation. He suddenly raised his long sword and shouted, Throw the spear. Clang, 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 one by one the shields fell. The next moment, the nearly 1,000 soldiers of the Flying Mount Battalion raised the spears on their horses and threw them. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. Squat down. Lin Muyu hurriedly shouted. Everyone on the fortress squatted down one after another. However, there were still people who couldn't dodge in time and were directly shot by the spears. In the blink of an eye, 7 or 8 people were killed and more than 10 people were injured. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.